Okay. I'll just make sure it's working on YouTube right now.
So this is an interesting concept. It's a pretty cool concept.
Kind
I
of like
like.
what we used to do with the with Hubert, remember?
Oh, right. No, but I mean, this is like more like a. It's not just horse racing. It's getting to know people
Oh, you didn't like that.
individually. Also, yeah, yeah.
All right, perfect. You're still with me, right, Bobby?
I'm here. Yeah. Can you see me or no?
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah, we
Okay.
just need to see you. Let's not look at me right now. I'm atrocious right now. But yeah, we're gonna start the interview right now. We got Bobby Salzano here, the famous Bobby Salzano, the logo of NHC.
I don't know about famous. Or
Oh, you're
the
pretty
logo.
famous, man. People have, even at Santa
I
Anita.
don't
I
know.
told you I go to Santa Anita all the time, and people know you. They're like, "Oh, Bobby, how's Bobby doing?" and stuff. You're known across the country. That's pretty good. And hey, I went with you to the to the dog track over there at SOKC, and you were the boss of that place, man. You own that place, so
Well, that's our that's our home base here. That's I mean that's where we spend. I mean it's so close to where it's only like 20 minutes from where I live. And when I was living in Orlando, it was even closer. But it's it's right there. It's close. It's where we spend. Well, where we mostly spend all our time over there on the weekends and stuff like that. Not so much lately, but the last time I was there was for the Derby, for the Kentucky Derby. I haven't been there since.
Oh
But
wow, you haven't been there for almost a year.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
It's like 8 months, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love that place. I enjoyed
No,
it. I
it's
enjoyed
great.
my
And
time
it
there.
used to be, it was, I wish you were there when when they actually had the dogs running and everything like that. The place was so much more packed. I mean, it was, when you came, it was just, that was like, that's the club was used to be the clubhouse area. And that was where,
Mhm.
where we were upstairs, you had to pay, to get in. And before they had, before COVID and everything like that. I mean, the food is great. Don't get me wrong. But they trimmed, Stevie trimmed down the menu quite a bit after COVID. And,
Yeah,
after when not so many people were coming, after the dogs were not running anymore and stuff like that. I mean, he used to have like prime rib dinners every Saturday,
oh
and
wow,
oh
like
my,
fancy stuff.
yeah, they had, because that was the clubhouse, and only the the people that could afford to go into the clubhouse, those were the, I mean, not that it was expensive, but like if you wanted to go to the clubhouse back then, it was like $10 to get in, because and how it, up there it was only the people that were spending money or didn't want to be downstairs, you know with the with the general crowd and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And that's where, and frankly, that's where the good food, if you wanted a nice dinner or whatever, if you want to go up to the bar and have drinks, that was the place to go. I mean, downstairs, um I mean, you met Val when you first walked in. She's the one that takes care of
yeah,
everybody downstairs. Well, she was in charge of the concession stands there. And there, hamburgers, hot dogs, stuff like that, fries, cheeseburgers, and things like that, sandwiches. So they had like all that type of, mozzarella sticks and stuff like that. But if you wanted like, a nice steak dinner, or you would go upstairs. That's where you would go. And if you wanted it, and upstairs was, until Nelson started coming upstairs.
well, you know what?
If you
Give
wanted
the
quietness, that's, if you didn't want to have all the uproar of being downstairs, with the regular general public and stuff like that, or being downstairs, that's where you would go. It was like, it was mostly like the older people would go there, because it wasn't loud. It was very quiet up there. I mean,
Bobby, give the listeners a little bit of a history of how you got started into horse racing.
so, living in, I'm from New Jersey, born and raised in Newark. And I've been like sort of around it my whole life. We used to go, my family, like, my dad, he was a big, he was a big track guy. He loves the horses and sports and stuff like that. So like, we would go, the Meadowlands again was like 20 minutes away from where we lived. If we wanted to go to Monmouth, then that's like driving down the shore. So it was further, but we used to go to, like, on Friday nights. I remember when I was a teenager and we were young, we used to go, the family. I remember like my parents' friends we'd go with like 30, 40 people, and we'd be up at the Meadowlands, and everybody would be wagering. It'd be like a little party and stuff like that. And I remember doing that like on Friday nights, every once in a while. So that was like an introduction, and plus everybody, like Joe Romano, that joined our website last year. Like, me and him, we went to high school together, and his family always, he was born into a horse racing family. His family trained horses, owned horses, and stuff like that. So, I was, through him, he would always talk, we would talk about sports and stuff like that, and he would talk about his horses and everything. And the funny thing is, because like, Nelson was asking me one day, he's like, because obviously everybody loves Secretariat, that's like, the monster horse of the century and stuff like that, but he was like, well, how did you, because honestly, until I got married, or until I left New Jersey, when I had met my ex-wife, and I moved up to Massachusetts, like that, like I want to say 2007 was probably the first Kentucky Derby that I ever watched in my life. Like, I never, my dad never pushed us to watch horse racing or play horse, so
Street Sense.
it was Barbaro, I want to say.
Barbaro was
whatever the year
2006.
that Barbaro ran, that it was, whether it was 2006, 2007.
Yeah, Barbaro was 2006 for sure.
Okay, so it was 2006. That was the horse that kind of started getting the ball rolling, and then when he got hurt and following his,
Oh yeah, that was a
that was like
situation.
huge. That was a huge situation. So it was like following his journey of him trying to get healthy and back and everything like that. So that kind of like propelled me. But up until that point, like, it was just casual. We'd go to Monmouth once in a while. Like, my dad, he would go with his buddies, sometimes on the weekends, and go down there for big events and stuff like that. And but he never pushed me to where I never really, I never really thought about it. But I love animals, dogs, cats, horses. I just always loved animals, so I just like going just to be around the animals.
Yeah.
But like, everybody that he knew and that we grew up with, somebody knew somebody that owned horses. And I remember, even like when I was in my 20s, and I remember a lot of my friends, hanging out at the bar. And if you ever go to Newark, anybody, Krug's Tavern, you want a burger? That's the fucking best burger you're going to get in New Jersey. A 1 pound burger, get it all with sauteed onions. Oh my God, you will die for that burger. But like, even though my friends, there was always somebody that owned horses or had horses, whether it was, harness or thoroughbreds, Monmouth, Parks, whatever. So I was kind of always around it. And and the other thing I told him, he goes, well, how'd you hear about Secretariat? I was like, well, I heard about Secretariat because my mom's dentist, he was a huge horse racing guy, and he owned champion harness racers at the Meadowlands, and he always had his trophies and his pictures all in the dentist office. I remember when I was a little kid, I used to go there, and he had the books, and he always had pictures of all his horses and like Secretariat and all the popular horses back then. And it was so funny because I didn't know what was going on, but he had a bookie there in the friggin' dentist office with him, taking the book for the wagers for whatever sports, So I didn't know until I started getting older, and then I started understanding what was going on. And he was the one that kind of like, he would throw his stuff out there, he would talk about the horses while he was cleaning my teeth and all that stuff. And yeah, I used to remember sitting in his office and reading the books and looking at all the memorabilia and stuff like that. And then probably when I graduated college and I got my first job, the department that I was working in, there was a guy named Chris, and we worked together, and he was a big harness guy. So I was probably in my mid-20s. I want to say I was probably maybe a little older, maybe about 27 about that time. And then him and a couple of the guys from the warehouse, they always used to go to the Meadowlands on Fridays. So they were like, "Oh, Bobby, why don't you come to the Meadowlands?" And I'm like, I'm not really into. I'll go and watch and hang out. I'm not really. I don't know how to, He's like, "Oh, I'll teach you how to handicap and this and that." So he tried to teach me at that point in time, and he tried to teach me how to, read the racing form and the speed figures and this and that. And I would go to his house, and he would try to teach me how to read the form and stuff like that, but it just didn't click for me at that particular time. And then, like I said, I don't know if it was the emotional thing with Barbaro, because I had met my ex-wife, we dated, we got engaged in 2005. I moved up to Massachusetts, and my father-in-law was huge into horse racing. I mean, he was going to Saratoga. They went to Suffolk Downs. His pretty much his home base was Rockingham Park over in Salem, New Hampshire, which again, 15 minutes, 20-minute drive from our house, from where we lived in Massachusetts. So he used to go there pretty much almost like every weekend. So I didn't know that many people. I mean, I worked close to Boston and stuff like that. So the paper company that I worked for, I worked for a few paper companies out there, but they, and my friends all lived in that area. They lived in South Massachusetts and Boston area. So they were all pretty much down there, so all my friends that I had down there, I'd hang out with them once in a while and stuff like that. I had a couple guys that I was buddies with that they were huge hockey fans like I was. And, we used to go to the Bruins game, or I would go to their houses and we would watch, the Patriots and watch, the Bruins play hockey and everything like that. But, yeah, so so one day she says to me, because she liked the, we used to go to the beach in the summertime, and then from the beach, which was Hampton Beach, right across the border of Massachusetts, we used to go to the beach, and then after the beach, we would go get fried clams at the, get our clam bake, at one of the local restaurants over there, like those little crab shacks over there, and then after that, the big thing for them was the whole family would go over to Seabrook, which was the dog track over there. And then we would go and watch the dogs run at night and then come home. There we'd get home at fucking 11 o'clock at night. We'd be out all day. And so, that was my partial introduction to the dogs, and then that's when I started learning about, the dogs. And so she said to me, she's like, "Well, why don't you start, maybe, you don't really know that many people up here and just my family, and, we're always together." And she's like, "I mean, if you want to go out and go with my father and Stevie and go with those guys to the track, once in a while or whatever, just so you have some, guys to hang out with and stuff like that. You're just not hanging out with my cousins and everything." So I'm like, "All right, I'll start going over there." So I didn't know. And Johnny was like, "Oh yeah, I'll show you how to read the form." And I didn't get it. It was but I liked it. I enjoyed it. And then I started, and then one thing I loved about going over there was, and I wish more places would do it, and they probably do, but the big thing that they used to do this huge spread for the Triple Crown races. Man, it was $17, all you can eat all day. You get there in the morning at 10 o'clock, get your table. They would have the continent. They would have breakfast in the morning, coffee, juice, breakfast, continental breakfast. And then they would bring out this huge spread around 11:30, 12 o'clock for lunch all day. I'm talking carved, prime rib and turkey and ham. And it was a huge spread. And we used to eat all day, eat and drink all day for $17. I'm like, you kidding me? This is a great deal. And then, and then I started, watching the races, and that was probably, that was probably 2006. And I'll say that was Barbaro time. And then, I that was my first Kentucky Derby that I ever watched live, and then, and then after that, I was like, "Hey, Johnny, teach me how to read the form. This way, this way I kind of know what I'm doing, sort of, I guess, when I come with you guys. But I didn't know I was going to get like upset. And then the thing happened with Barbaro, and then I started following his, and then I was like, and then he started teaching me how to read the form and everything like that. And and then after that, it was like that emotional attachment, that drew me in, and then I was like, and then we went to the Preakness. I remember a couple weeks later, and I was actually doing pretty good. I picked a couple winners and this and that, and I was like, okay, maybe I can start getting the hang of this. And but it took me a while to read. Like, I didn't get it, and the thing that he taught me was, he's like, listen. He's like, this happens to everybody that is learning how to read the form. You're no different from nobody else. You're not going to get it for a while. He's like, it probably, it could take you a month, 3 months, could take you a year before but he's like, eventually what's going to happen, and it happens to every single handicapper. You can ask 100 handicappers and they'll all tell you the same thing. The light switch will come on that one day, and a flood of knowledge will just flow into your brain, and you're going to be like, now I understand what everybody's freaking talking about. All right, now I get it.
The light bulb comes on.
Huh?
The light bulb comes on.
Yeah, it was like, then I started, because I was getting frustrated, and I'm like, I can't figure this shit out. And like, I'm a totally different handicapper today than I was back then. Like, I was really green. I was, I didn't have the arsenal that I have and that I use today, and stuff like that. Like, I've grown exponentially. Definitely since I moved to Florida and I met guys like Mel Caraballo. He was the first guy I ever met there, and I think you remember signing him up a few years ago onto the website. So he was the first guy I ever met, and then he was friends with Nelson. And then the next time I went back to the track, because I met Mel up at the clubhouse, that's where I met him, and I was having a great day. And I went to the track with, like, I just was going for a casual, and that's how my attitude was. Like, my attitude was like how Johnny taught me. My ex-father-in-law, he was the type of guy that, listen, he's like, horse racing. He goes, he goes, I don't even know if I even want you to fucking play. Put it this way, but he's like, it is the hardest thing you will ever do in your fucking life. He's like, this game will knock you down 20 times sideways, 50 times on Sunday, 100 times on Monday. He's like, this game will just kick the crap out of you. But, but once you love it and you enjoy it, he's like, you just got to look at it as it's entertainment. It's a day out. He's like, just budget your money. Don't do what I did. He was like a huge, degenerate, like, bad. And, so he was like, listen, I don't want you to go down. He's like, learn how to budget yourself, go. I'm a big proponent of just going to the track with money that you don't give a shit about. Make sure your bills are paid. Make sure you're gonna go.
Bobby,
Make sure you're gonna go to the track with money that's not gonna hurt your pocket. You're just gonna go have fun, and
that brings us to our first question from the group. Peter Weitzner from Brooklyn. He wants to know about your approach to money management. For example, let's say you bring 2,000 or 5,000 to the track. What is your management? Where will your big bets be?
Well,
let's start with 2,000. Let's say you take 2,000 to the track.
All right. So I'm a big proponent. It depends how prepared you are. There's days I go to the track and I haven't looked at anything, so I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I like. I'm just going for the day, for entertainment, just to have fun.
Yeah.
So if I have that mindset, then I do what I call playing small ball, which is like, like in baseball, you play small ball, you hit a single, you hit a double, you get you work yourself up to the loaded bases and hit your grand slam or whatever you're gonna do. But
you kind of start slow.
I play like small wagers. Maybe I'll see a horse that I like. Okay, well, let's start off. Maybe 10 on this horse, see what happens. Or if I like the exacta, all right, let's play a $5 exacta box, see what happens.
Well, let's say this is when you don't have a strong opinion. Let's put this out there, right? Again, right? Like this is when you're going out there and
so I wait. I like.
Because you might, let's say you love a horse in the second race.
I'm the opposite of Nelson. Like Nelson, he has to have action every fucking race. So like he gets there, boom, he wants to fucking let's do the pick threes, let's get an exacta going, blah blah blah. I'm not like that. It's like there's times I went to the track and I waited fucking all day long, didn't spend the friggin' dime, and waited for the race that I knew I was gonna friggin' slam, and then
that was my
all
question.
My money on that race.
There you go. Perfect.
And he's like, aren't you going to play anything? I said, yeah, I got like $20 I'm just messing around with. I don't really care. But I said, I'm waiting for this particular race. I'm going to do a $50 exacta box, boom, boom with this horse. And I'm going to put,
single in your pick
whatever,
threes,
$50 right? To win and place on them. I'm going to do some kind of tri-key or something like that.
How about your pick three?
Or a pick three, if I have like a strong opinion on a single or maybe just two horses, I'll play like a small pick three or something like that. So, I approach everything a little bit. It depends on the day, Some days I'm really prepared and I know, okay, listen, as soon as I get there, I'm walking in, I'm playing the early pick 3, pick 4, pick 5 or whatever, I already have everything mapped out. I know what I'm going to do. And then, and then we just sit and wait and then see what happens, and then if we get bombed out or whatever in the first race, second race, third race or whatever, then, okay, then, all right, then we'll pick up our britches and, we'll start all over and then we'll figure something else out, so, or like, see I go by the flow of the day, I don't, it depends on what it is. Like, certain days I'm more prepared than others. Like big days, Breeders' Cup Day, like Pegasus Day, whatever, Kentucky Derby Day. Like I'm ready, like 2 days ahead already. I've already capped it. I know exactly who I like. I just got to wait for scratches, wait for conditions, see if I need to make any adjustments. Most of the time I don't. I already know. And that's it. I just this is where I'm going. Boom, boom, boom. You don't like it, okay? Then you go do your own little thing there. And that's it. And some days it's just casual. You go there with $100, $50, whatever. I'm just gonna hang out for the day and just I'll play a little dollar tri key for 50 cents. Or like a try box for 50 cents or play like little supers or something like that just to build some bankroll, or maybe I'll just do a little pick 3 for like $10 or something like that just to see what happens or whatever. So it's different all the time. It depends on what you're looking for that that day. I know guys at the track, they come heavy every day. They come with $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 and they're going to friggin' hit the home run all the time. They're looking to put like $1,000 to win a place on a horse that they like or a few horses that they like or whatever. But when you're on a limited budget, you got to figure out what your budget is and what you're trying to accomplish in that particular day. And I know somebody asked about contests, like what would you do for contests?
Mike Whitney.
Well, yes. So all right, so like I said,
he wants to know how you isolate a horse for a contest.
Well, I will
you can only pick one.
I know it, and that's the
that's the tough part.
The one thing that has helped me immensely by playing these horse tournaments is that you pick your one horse and then you pick your alternative. Even just picking 2 horses in a race has given me it has really helped me a lot. because sometimes I go and and other people, they'll be like 5, 6, 7 deep in a race, and I got like 2 horses, and they're like, "Really? You think you're gonna get at it?" Well, I said, "Yeah, I got the horse. I got 2 horses that I really like, and that's it. I don't like anybody else. So if I don't like anybody else, I I play horses that I like, and if, no matter no matter what the odds are. And the past year and a half, I've told Hubert, because like you send me the forms, Hubert sends me forms, and I tell him when he sends me the forms, I said, and what also has helped me immensely, I said, make sure you send me the forms that don't have the odds on them. I don't want the odds on my form. If I can avoid it, that's the best, because that has helped me a lot. And I remember, and one thing that I remember my father-in-law, Johnny, used to tell me, he's like, he was like, once you get to a certain point in your life of handicapping, he's like, I've been doing this for 40 years. So he's like, I don't need odds. I don't need these people on TVG telling me who's going to win or who's not going to win. Most of them can't even pick their nose, let alone pick winners or whatever. He's like, I can look at a form with no odds. And he goes, I could just look and I could tell you who the public's going to pick, who the favorite's going to be, why, you don't, he goes, once you get that experience over the years, he goes, you don't need to know what the odds are. He goes, you're going to know where the public is going to go. You're going to know who the horse to beat is. You're going to know who's going to get pounded, who's going to not, So for me, it's helped me, the tournaments have helped me because it helped me hone in on like where there'd be horses where I'd be playing these, wagers of like whatever, pick 4s, pick 5s. And I'm like, fuck, I got to figure out a way how to cut some of these. Cause sometimes, there are, and people say, oh, well, like, why are you picking 5, 6 horses? Whatever. There are times when you have to go deep in certain, like sometimes I got 5 or 6 horses and I can't split a hair between any of these horses.
Mhm.
And some of them could be 30-1, some of them could be 6-5. And I'm like, any one of these horses can win this particular race.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. And I'm not going to not leave somebody out just because he's this price or what, like if I think the horse can win, then I'm going to put, that's the horse I'm going with. That's the horse I'm going to, I never pick a horse that I think that can't win, whether he's 50-1, 30-1. If I pick a 50-1 shot, there's something that I've seen that tells me that, this horse can do something today. And sometimes I'll just, the gut instinct will kick in also. And that's another thing too, is I beat myself more than the races beat me, because one, I envy guys like you a little bit that you take the clear path sometimes, or most of the time. Like, okay, this horse, nobody's going to beat this horse. Well, of course, I'm the jackass, and I'm always going to try to beat that horse. But consistent people like you that are accurate, that horse is going to win. So, that's it. Just take that horse and maybe one other horse and then move on to the next leg. Sometimes I don't do that. I play most of the time. I'm always playing against that horse, but there's no shame.
Let me tell you, Bobby,
if
some
that
people
horse,
say that's a good thing, and then some people say that's a bad thing. I've talked to
it all
contest players who are doing.
It depends. It depends on what you're
It's all
trying.
depends on your style, though.
If you have a pick 5 and you're on a budget, right, and you figure, okay, listen, this horse is a single, and I don't even care what the odds are. The horse could be 10-1, the horse could be 5-1, the horse could be 3-1. It doesn't matter. If you look at a race and you break it down and you say, man, this horse is the winner. And I don't care if the favorite of the race was already morning line 6-5. It's all subjective. It's objective and it's subjective in a way, because it's objective because there's data out there that says, okay, this horse is the best. And if he runs it's also subjective because anything can happen in horse racing. These are animals that you're dealing with. they can have a bad day just like humans have a bad day. They can have a bad race. They can have any kind of, they could have traffic trouble. The jockey might not do the thing that they're supposed to do with the horse and get the horse in trouble. I mean, anything could happen. So, but there are times where, you just know, it's like, okay, this horse and this horse, these are two perfectly good. You got to find that horse that you can trust and you can count on,
Bobby, it depends on the
and then
dynamic.
spread in other races. You know what I'm
Bobby,
saying?
it depends on the dynamic of the contest, in my opinion. Because just the other day, I finished fifth of the contest where only top three got paid, and I missed it by $2.70. And I had a mixture of long shots and favorites, so I didn't really feel too bad. But if you notice that you have plenty of long shots, I personally do not see anything wrong with adding a couple of favorites into the contest if you think that they're very likely winners, because
Right.
nobody's going to win a contest with all favorites. We all know that.
Right.
Everybody knows that.
The
But if
main
you already
thing,
have long shots,
the
I
main
don't
thing
see
is to
the
have. I
favorite
mean,
might separate you. Do you know what I mean? That $2 might separate you from the other person.
and that's the trouble that I'm falling into, because I'm not playing the, what I call like the obvious horse or the obvious winner of the race. And sometimes at the end of the day, it costs me, because sometimes I'm too top heavy on all kinds of long shots and stuff like that. And if I don't connect with one of my long shots, or say I connect with one long shot and then I don't connect with the other long shot, well, shit, I didn't, that $8, $9, $10 from that 9 to 5 favorite, at the end of the day, a lot of times that separates me from winning a seat, losing a seat, winning money, losing money, being in top
Exactly. That's
10,
my
or being
point.
in the bottom 50. So, the main thing is to have you got to figure out, it's the balance. You got to have a balanced ticket. You know what I'm saying? If you got 10 races, and okay, like a lot of times what I do is I look at a race and I'm like, okay, this is going to be these two horses. It's going to be one of these two horses are going to win. This is going to be the exacta, and blah blah blah.
And you usually go with a
if I
higher
know
price,
that,
right?
I'll go with the horse that I really like, and then
Or it doesn't matter. Or do you go with the horse that's the higher price? If you think it's a two-horse
that's
race.
my downfall too, because and I have to, and that's another aspect of my game. Sometimes I'm going for the horse that's the higher price, and it can work with you and it can work against you, because they call that the drift. So you might, there might be two favorites. There might be a 2-1 and a 5-2. You look at this horse and, man, Irad's on this horse. He's riding for this trainer. Oh man, this horse he's going to be 6-5, and then you look at this horse and he's like, okay, well, maybe I might get, 3-1, because everybody's going to be pounding Irad and this trainer, for this particular race. And then there's been times where it fooled me and I played that horse and I wound up getting the 6-5, and then or whatever, the other horse didn't get bet. And now the other horse drifted up to 5-1, and then he winds up winning. You know what I'm saying? And that's happened to me both ways, and I got screwed both ways. I used the horse, and it wasn't,
both ways?
Here I'm thinking that, damn, this horse is probably going to be like 5-1. So maybe sneakily, if I need that money at the end of the tournament, that might be. And then I get the opposite effect. My horse becomes the favorite all of a sudden. And now, even though I connect with that horse, it's not enough to put me anywhere. Now, I lost like $5 or $6 along the way now. And that $5 or $6 could have meant me winning or losing, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's close. A lot of times Hubert keeps track of all my, talk about Rain Man. So he has a spreadsheet of all my tournaments that I've ever played, and he figures out how much I've lost, this and that. So like, I've lost more tournaments by less than, and I'm talking about like qualifiers, big tournaments, and there's days where I get walloped. I get my ass kicked. There's days where I can't do anything right. I can't pick the right horse. It's just, one of those days. And then there's days where I have like Breeders' Cup, Kentucky Derby day, like this past Pegasus day, I was unstoppable. And and it's not like, I gave
how it
all my
is.
picks out an hour before the races started, and I friggin', I killed it my picks killed it that day. I was picking, and the thing is like, shit, I'm picking all these horses. And then the next morning when I look at everything, I'm like, holy shit, am I crazy? I'm on 30-1 shots, 20-1 shots. I'm like, what, 15-1 shots? And they all ran their asses off.
That brings us to our next question, Bobby. That brings us to our next question. Glenn not Robinson, Rosenberg. Why do I call him
our
Robinson?
buddy Glenn there.
You know Glenn, our buddy Glenn. We love Glenn. If you're
Good
listening,
man. We
Glenn,
love
we
Glenn.
love you,
Good
brother.
man. It's fucking
He wants
funny.
to know how does a winning or losing streak impact your confidence in play?
Well, hey, listen, I'm not going to say it doesn't. We're human. I'm a very emotional player. I'm just an emotional person as it is. So emotion has a lot to do, and that's another thing that I got to work on. Because like I get too attached to horses, and I'm not going to lie, I do. I follow their journeys, and you fall in love with certain horses or whatever, and it just like, it kills you when bad things go wrong or they lose or whatever. Or you see a horse that was once nice and beautiful, and now all of a sudden he's running for a tag at Charlestown or something like that, and you're like, oh my god, this horse used to run there.
Charlestown. Oh, that's where it's really bad.
Well, oh my god, I had I was like, oh, this, like I said to Hubert, I'm like, I was like, what the hell? I said, and it was a horse that I loved, like, like 5 years ago. It was like a Wesley Ward horse. The horse ran at friggin' Royal Ascot and Keeneland and Saratoga. And I'm like, this horse is now running at fucking Charlestown in a friggin' $20,000 claiming race. I'm like, retire the girl, already. I was like, holy shit. I mean, this horse raced at Royal Ascot, for God's sakes. I'm like, holy cow. Anyway, but I get attached, and sometimes my confidence helps me throughout the day, and it hurts me. So that's one thing. And and like I said, it all depends on what you're looking for that particular day. Are you looking to slam dunk it all day long, or are you looking just to progressively, bring your bankroll, roll your bankroll over, every race or whatever, and build your bankroll and stuff like that. It all depends on you. But like for me, um, you know, uh, if I start running cold, then I kind of back off a little bit on my wagers. I don't bet as much. I'll bet smaller. I'll try to do a couple things where, um, maybe just, do stupid things like, $2 to win a show, win in place on a horse. Just to,
how about when you're rolling? Do you go bigger?
Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have a plan for the day, and I stick to the plan, and then I just keep rolling, and other days, if I'm, sometimes I get out of the comfort zone, and then I'm like, and I find that sometimes I do that, and it kind of goes against me, because then, like I had a plan, and my plan was, okay, I'm not going to bet any more than $20 win in place on every horse, maybe at most 40 or 50 or something like that, or 25 or something like that. And, and then when I start going bigger, sometimes that's when I start losing all of a sudden, so it's like, you're like, because, and then it hurts you because, well, huh?
Do you drink alcohol?
I don't drink as much as I used to. No,
Oh,
not,
okay.
like, every once in a while,
alcohol affects
like,
betting.
yeah, like every once in a while, I might have a couple drinks at the track or something like that. I mean, I don't really drink a lot, so it doesn't really affect me that much.
Do you ever go to the ATM when you're at the track?
Yeah, there's been times where, like sometimes, I gone with like $100, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's see how I do, because I didn't really feel like going to the bank or something like that, and then I get clobbered. You get whacked in the first few races, or whatever. Or, you play like a couple big pick threes or something like that,
You
thinking
get
that,
screwed both ways.
yeah, and then the next thing you
like
know,
that.
shit, you got to run to the ATM, grab another 100 or 200 or whatever you're gonna do.
Have you ever done the twice in a same day ATM?
Say that again.
Have you ever gone to the ATM twice in one day at the track?
Yes,
Oh boy, at least you're admitting it.
yes, yes. Well, Nelson one day had a. I was like, we lost all our money, and then I was like, all right, that's it, I'm done for the day. And he had to throw the stick over the fence horse, and I'm like, and it was so funny because he liked the horse, I didn't like the horse. He's like, Rob, come on. He's like, I was like, all right, and I had the money at the time, and I was like, all right. I was like, but I don't like this horse. I like the other horse. I like the 4. He liked the 3. He's like, no, man, the 3's throw the stick over the fence. Guess who won?
Oh boy.
His horse backed up at like whatever he was 9-5, and then my horse won at like 4-1. And I forgot who was. I think Jose was on him that day at Gulfstream or whatever it was, and he was so pissed. He was felt so bad because we took the money out because he knew I didn't want to. But he was like, come on, let's do it. He's like, we never do that. We never do. I'm like, I know. So I should have just, we should have just played part his horse, part my horse. Then we would have broke even. But we played the whole thing on his horse, and yeah.
When you go to the ATM at the racetrack, do you have that ashamed look? Do you look around making sure nobody sees you, or you don't care?
No, I don't care. No.
Oh.
Yeah, most of the time it's I'm pissed because I'm like, motherfucker. I just friggin', I went there with X amount of dollars, and they're killing me today, and I get pissed. So I have to watch that too, because
I appreciate your honesty.
Because I'll
you know
get
what I
pissed and
do.
I'll go to the ATM and I'm like, I'm not going out like that today. They're not getting me today. No friggin' way. I'm coming back, and we're gonna friggin', and then we start chasing, and then we start losing our assholes.
I'll walk another 2-3 minutes to another ATM to where nobody notices me, nobody I know knows me, because I don't want anybody to see me at the ATM. Because I feel like
no. I mean, it doesn't matter
shame.
because the place is so small. I mean, there's only 2 ATMs. There's one upstairs and one downstairs, and they're both by the tellers. So everybody knows you're going to the ATM. So it's like there's no privacy downstairs. So the only way is, hey, I'll be back in a few minutes. I gotta run to the store. So I'll you go down to the Wawa, and then you go to the ATM over there, and then you come
weird?
back.
Bobby, you know what's weird? Del Mar has ATMs in the parking lot. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
They have 2 of them. I've even taken pictures of it in the parking lot. So I guess they want you to take money on the way in and on the way out too.
I guess. I don't know. I guess they put it there in case you forget, because you probably have, I don't know. You allowed to use your credit card or debit card to pay to get into Santa Anita, or they only take cash?
No, you could use your debit card, but most people bring cash.
Maybe I'm thinking maybe they did that so people can go to if they don't have cash on them when they're walking in the door to to go and get cash so they can pay to get in or something like that. But no, I never seen an ATM outside in the parking lot. That's
another question from the group. Mark Stone, he wants to know, do you have any superstitions, and what are they?
No superstitions. No, I'm never been a superstitious person in my life, and I don't believe in superstitions.
You don't have a favorite TV you watch or a certain area?
Nope. I don't fall into that trap.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, no, I don't. Nope, not at all. Never had a superstition in my life.
Never, not even anything.
Nope.
Wow, I think you're one of the rare ones out there, Bobby.
Oh yeah, I know people, they don't change their underwear for a freaking week because they're afraid their team is going to lose. They don't shave their beards for 3 months. I'm like, get the fuck. What is wrong with you idiots? Like, you really think that anything that you do is going to cause the team to win or friggin' lose? Come on. So I don't know. I never fell into that trap. So I'm like, thank God I never was superstitious, because I'm like, man, some of you people are really freaking ridiculous with that shit. Really, you really think that if you put your left sock on and your right sock on, that your team is going to win or lose today? And if you put, I'm like, come on, man. Or if you wore your polka dot shorts today and that they're going to lose, and if you wear your stripes tomorrow, they're going to win. It's ridiculous. I don't fall for that shit. It's just dumb.
The way you make it sound, now I'm starting to think maybe I shouldn't either. But you make a very good point.
There is
Bobby,
nothing that you can do ever that is going to cause and affect something else from 3,000 miles away or even 10 feet away, unless you run up to the field and you tackle somebody or something like that. I mean, unless you physically do something. But no, it's just, I just never believed in superstitions. Like, I know, like, even when we played sports like football, baseball, hockey, and stuff like that, it was like, even like my friends, like, some of them had to get their right hand taped, then their left hand, and then their right ankle, and then they had to have a certain, or they had to put their pants on a certain way or whatever, left leg first, right leg first, blah, blah. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, that's I'm like, I said, that's just mind clutter. Just throw it away. What do you need that for? That's just added extra bullshit.
As somebody, you've been in the horse racing at least 18 years, right? Since 2006, you said.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so you'd be a good person to ask this question to. This is my personal question. What do you think sets winners and losers apart in horse racing as gamblers? What do you think is the difference between a winning gambler and a losing gambler when it comes to horse racing?
Not knowing what your limit is.
I mean, like control, money
Yeah,
management,
like money management, not having a plan before you go. See, I like when I'm, it doesn't always happen, but I like to go, because when I go to the track and I'm at the track, like, I want to be talking to my friends. I want to be walking around. I want to be having a drink with somebody or whatever, or see people that I haven't seen in a while. I want to bullshit and stuff like that. So, like, if I'm going to Tampa or Gulfstream or whatever, if we're going for the day, like, I want to handicap. Like, I try to handicap like the night before or the morning, early in the morning when I get up before we leave or something like that. But mostly it's the night before. And I kind of want to have like some kind of direction of what I'm doing, where I'm going, what horses I like, what horses I'm going to key, any playback horses that I'm waiting to come back on, to run back again and stuff like that. I kind of want to know what I'm doing. It's just one of those things that I'm just going just for the, no, we're just going for the casual day and stuff like that. I mean, there's some, I got to go by how I feel that day. Some days I just, I don't feel like handicapping tonight. Fuck it. I'm just going to, I'll just, read the form in the car or just wait till we get there, and I'll just go race by race and, this and that. But, I'm such a social bug, when I'm at the track, and I like to walk around. I don't like to be in like one. I like to have a home base, like a table or something like that, where we can leave all our stuff.
Yeah.
But I like to walk around. I like to go, between each race. I like to walk back and forth to the paddock. I like to watch all the horses come in and out. And, I like to visually see everything. And like, if you remember, like when me and Karen were at Keeneland, after the contest and everything on Sunday, like, I was doing the live videos from the paddock. Every race we were going over each horse and stuff. Like, I love stuff like that, and I enjoy, going back and,
look who you're talking to. I have paddock picks every day I go to the track.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And I enjoy doing that. So
it's the best part of being at the track.
Yeah. I mean, even like, that's why I loved Saratoga, because, we used to get the, we every time we went, we always had a picnic table. So the picnic area is right next to the paddock. So like every race after, go over straight to the paddock, check out the horses, see how they look, see how they're walking around and stuff like that. And, that's a big part of, being at the track and the enjoyment. So like I'm always, like I'm never unless I get tired and I need to sit down. But when I'm at the track, it's like we're all over the place. I'm going back and forth to the paddock, then we're going back inside, then I go back to the general mission area. Then when the race is getting ready to go off, we go back to the rail and we watch the race live, so it's like we're all over the place. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different when you're at the dog track and it's just simulcast. Then we're sitting at the table all day like we were, and we're just there like that all day. But when I'm at the track, I'm all over the place. Like when I'm at Gulfstream, I'm walking around talking to people and stuff like that. Like I'm not I'm there for the day. So the best thing for me is to have a plan, know who I like, who I don't like, wait for scratches, and then make any adjustments, and kind of have like a little plan of, I write down, okay, what kind of wagers am I going to do? Maybe today I'm just going to do 10-10 on every race I play. Maybe some races, okay, I want to smack this exacta, or I'm going to do 10-10, play the exacta. Maybe I'll play the super in this particular race. I got 4 horses that I like and I can't decide, so I'm just going to box these 4 horses, or, so it depends on the, it depends on the day. It depends on the day and how strongly you feel in your particular picks.
Well, that's why you got to go prepared to the racetrack. You got to go
right. Yeah.
Especially you, because you say you're a social butterfly. You're always talking to people.
Oh yeah, I am.
That's pretty much me too. So if I go to the track without any reading the form, which I never do, 99% of the time when I go to the track, I'm pretty much fully prepared because I know I'm going to be distracted when I'm at the track.
Right.
And so that's why, especially somebody like you or anybody else out there, you got to go to the track prepared, or you might miss a race, and that could be.
Oh yeah, and I've done that.
I've
sat out a couple races because I was too busy walking around, talking to people, hanging out.
Oh yeah.
And I missed a few races, and I was like, "Oh shit! I wanted to play that horse, and I forgot." And he wins, or came in second, or something like that. I'm like, "Damn!" I was like, and sometimes I'm just not prepared. I haven't looked at the next couple of races, so I just, if I haven't looked, then I just sit out, and because sometimes I could just, like I'd go to the track and not even bet sometimes, and like Nelson be running around, we'd be at Tampa, and he'd be talking to all his jockey friends and trainer friends and this and that, and sometimes I'll just be sitting there in the general admission area, just watching the horses come in and out, and just casually just watching the races, maybe play a few races here and there, or he'll say, come on, let's put a pick 3 together. We'll put a pick 3 together. And then sometimes I'm good for the day, and I'm just there to enjoy the day, because sometimes it's just the weather is beautiful. The weather is nice. And, it's a beautiful sunny day. It's cool. It's 75. It's sunny. I mean, you got a nice little breeze. And I'm like, this is the perfect day to be at the track. Leave me here all day. I'll be here all day. I'll watch the workouts. I'll sit here all day. And just, when it's time to go home, just come and get me and we get out of here, but I could be at the track all day long and not be bothered.
Morning, noon, and night?
Morning, noon, and night. Just let me sit there and just enjoy the races, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, and the racetrack can be a very relaxing place as well.
My favorite time was when we used to go to Saratoga, and we used to get up early in the morning, get up at 5, leave the house at like 6, get a parking spot, wait at the gate. They open up the gates at 7, get the picnic table, and then from 7 to 9 they would do the workouts in the morning. Mm-hmm. And man, that was my favorite time of day, just sitting there in the bleachers, just sitting there with a nice hot coffee and just watching the horses.
Bobby, it's so interesting.
I'm like, man, I could just sit here all day and just watch the horses work out, and I would be totally fine with that.
Bobby, it's so funny that you say that, because I recently did that about 2 weeks ago, and in the middle of doing that, I was like, this is so relaxing.
And especially for you, nice. Like being at Santa Anita, like that, beautiful background is the San Gabriel Mountains is so picturesque.
Yeah, they're named after me,
That's
by the
one
way.
reason. That's one reason why I always wanted to go to Santa Anita, was just because of that. I was like, shit, I love that's like my favorite time in the morning, and the sun's coming out, and you got the little mist going on, and I think that's the best time of the day for me.
Clocker's Corner is really a beautiful place at Santa Anita, and I think if I lived a little bit closer, I'd probably be there more often. I'm not an early bird, but what's really nice about Clocker's Corner is you got trainers, jockeys, agents. They're all there talking to each other and stuff, and you could, they'll just walk right by you, say hi. Just like the other day,
Oh,
Mike
yeah,
Smith
the
walked right
same
by
thing.
me.
You know what? The same thing at Saratoga too. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
they're all
Of
there
course,
in the
it's going to be like
morning,
that.
and
Any track, yeah, and it's
you know,
wonderful. And and I've really, because it's not something I've really done that much of, Bobby, is being a Clocker's Corner, because I'm really not a morning person. I'm
right,
more
right,
of a night owl kind of guy. But
yeah.
being at the track early in the morning and
It's
just
just so relaxing.
it's so
And
relaxing. It's so picturesque. Hearing the horses, breathe and run and all that, chase each
just
other.
hearing, the galloping and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. The
Just,
sound, everything. It's wonderful. And I've had
and I don't know if, like I said, I've never been to Santa Anita or Delmar, but for so many years, I think she's still there. I don't. She's older now, but they had the lady there that she'd be there in the with the microphone, walking around. Everybody be having their breakfast, and she would walk around and she would say, she would tell everybody who's out there on the track. This is such and such horse for such and such
wow,
trainer.
that's even nice.
That's the
No, they don't have that
exercise
at Santa Anita.
rider,
Wish they
the
did.
jockey for this horse is such and such, and this and that. Oh yeah. And she talks through the whole thing, and she tells every horse that's out there what their name is, who's the owners. She has a whole sheet out there that she and very informative too. So I like listening to her. She'll say, okay, the Pletcher group is out there right now, and they'll say, this and this and that and this is horses there, this is such and such that ran in this big race, blah blah blah. So it's pretty cool. Like, it's one thing I like about Saratoga. And it's just, it's just it's a friendly place. I like it because it's like any day you go there, it's what horse racing should be. It's like it's packed. It's fully packed. It's like it's like the combination of like horse racing and like being at like a college tailgate, summertime picnic on the beach. You got people tailgating. You got the serious people. You got the college kids. You got the families, and you got people of all different ages and all different groups and everything like that, and everybody's just there for the same thing, to have fun and have a good time. Like, it's no that's why I fell in love fell in love with with going to Saratoga every summer. And there'd be summers where, like, we would take off work and we would just drive out there for the day. Like my friend Stevie would say, come on, let's go to Saratoga for the day. All right, I'll take off. When you want to go? Let's go Friday. All right, we get up early in the morning, drive for the day, and spend the day at the track, and then drive home. It's like a 3.5 hour ride, but we get home at like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But it was just, and and it's just a fun experience. That's why I can't wait one day. That's why I was so disappointed when I didn't get to go to Santa Anita for the Breeders' Cup tournament. I was like, damn. I was like, I knew I should have just, because we knew Trey already had a seat. And me and Corey were trying really hard to win a seat. But I had told Sean Motorset, because I was like, shit, I said, I just want to come out there. I said, even if I don't get a seat, I said, we could probably go.
Bobby, you were the only one missing. Seriously, everybody was there that day. So many people.
Listen, and you know what? And 2 months, like,
You would have been the cherry on top.
I wanted to. I called up Sean, like, it was like September. It was like September, sometime in September. No, I'm sorry, it was like in October, and I was like, shit. I was like, I said, I don't know if I'm going to win a seat or not. And me and Corey are trying. Well, hold on. I got to get Bella. She's trying to jump off the couch. Hold on. What's the matter, girl?
Bella is Bobby Salzano's dog.
Little. Hi, everybody. I'm Bella. She's getting old. Oh, drink your water.
Aren't we all getting old?
Yeah, we're all getting old. But yeah, I was trying to. We tried so hard to win a seat, and we came close so many times, and it eluded us.
It just
But
seemed like
I
everybody
said to
was there
Sean,
but
I was
you.
like, listen, I said I want to come out. I said, even if I don't win a seat, I want to go to the Breeders' Cup again. And I said, are you going to get tickets? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to get tickets. He's like, well, he goes, if you come, I'll pay for you. I'll pick you up at the airport. You know, he's like, we're going, I'll get you a seat or whatever, we're going to get like the cheap seats or whatever. And I'm like, all right. And I should have pulled the trigger.
You don't even need a seat. You could just go in. There's
no, I
places to
know,
sit.
but I wanted to be wherever everybody else was, and then I would walk around. But I wanted to, I just wanted to be there, So so he's like, well, just buy the flight. You buy the flight, I'll pick you up. He's like, you could, he's like, you could crash at, my house for the night, and then, we'll drive you to we'll go to the track, and then you could stay with Corey and Trey at their hotel, and then, they were coming back and forth both days. So, but it didn't work out, and I didn't pull the trigger when I should have, and but I would have been out there this year.
Now, whose bed would you have slept in, Corey or Trey's?
The cot. I would have slept on the cot.
Oh, okay.
we would have got one of those rolling cots,
or you would have slept on the floor, right?
Yeah. It wouldn't have mattered. Yeah, we would have got one of those rolling cots, coming in. But yeah, the funny thing was, because Brett was busted my balls today, and he was like, tell them about the tournament, So, all right, so I was lucky enough to win a Keeneland seat, right, for that Keeneland tournament, and I'm not.
You win so many.
Everybody thinks,
I don't know which one. I can't.
I'm an okay handicapper. I think I'm decent enough.
Bobby, you win so many seats. I can't keep up with it.
I'm good enough to hold my own. I'm not the best. I'm not the worst or whatever. But I suck at these live tournaments, and I've been trying to be better at these tournaments. And so we go to Keeneland, and I was totally.
It's a total mental thing with you, right?
Well, the thing was, I was unprepared. We drove out there. It was like a 15-hour drive. My friend Ron, he drove. I drove half the way. He drove half the way. I never, when I'm going on a big trip and I have to get up early, because we left at like real early in the morning, the day before, and because we knew we weren't going to get to the Airbnb till like 10, 11 o'clock that night, and I couldn't fall asleep the night before, and I was pretty much up for like 24 hours. And then we're driving. He picks me up. He was late. We hit traffic. It was raining. He's driving slow. So we had a whole bunch of obstacles. I wound up sleeping most of the day because I was so exhausted from not sleeping the night before. I pretty much slept like 8 hours in the car. So I wake up, and, we got about, I think we were like in Georgia or something like that. So I was like, well, I'm ready, whenever you want to pull over, and then I'll continue driving the rest of the way. So I drove the rest of the way. So I didn't handicap anything. So I played what I thought was going to be a feeder on Friday at Keeneland, to get a seat for, a second seat, for Saturday, because I already had the one seat that I won on horse tourneys. And of course, our good friends, Kristen and Mike, they went to Keeneland for the day, Kristen McGonigal. And so they were like, after Keeneland was over, I was playing the tournament. That was the first time I was there, so I was trying to, stoke up the atmosphere, running back and forth to the paddock, and I was doing my thing, and I was meeting people that 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 I wanted to see and stuff like that. And so Kristen and Mike come, and they come to where I was in the tournament area, and this is Friday. This is the small tournament, and so they're like, oh, we're gonna go out after Keelan. We're gonna go back to his hometown, um, and we're gonna go to this bar and stuff like that. Let's go have dinner and have some drinks. Oh my god! So we have dinner, we freaking drink, and we don't get back to the fucking room till like 2 o'clock in the morning. We're fucking cocked, and so now the next day, and I had all intents and purpose. I didn't have any. I wasn't going to stay out that late, but we wound up staying out that late. And I really wanted to wake up early in the morning to get up and start handicapping for Saturday because I did none of
Now
that.
it all makes sense, Bobby.
And I did none of that. And we woke up late. We wanted. I wanted to be at the track at 11. When they open, so we can get our seats. First time being there and playing in that big of a tournament. That was a really
Get situated.
Get situated. Me and him didn't, we didn't wake up until like 10:30. We got to take showers. We got to get dressed. I didn't look at anything.
Checkout time.
Well, no, I mean, we were, this was Saturday, so we didn't, we stayed until Monday,
Oh, yeah.
We were there for all weekend. So I didn't handicap a goddamn thing. And
now I see why you performed so poorly, Bobby.
Oh, I was,
Bobby, you can't do that. You gotta be strict.
And you know what? And it was just a bad day because the bad got worse and then worse and then worse. And so I call Hubert and I tell him, hey, listen, man, we screwed up, and not that we screwed up, but hey, listen, we had a great time out. That's what we were out there for, to have fun and stuff like that. But I kind of, lost sight of what I was there for, and but it's okay. I have no regrets. But it was definitely a learning experience. So we get there, we get settled, and now like starving. I haven't had my coffee yet, and we're rushing to get there. I'm like totally unprepared. I haven't looked at any of the races yet. So we get there, we sit next to Brett and Sarah, and I'm telling Brett, what happened. And he's like, well, he's like, listen, just take your time. We got all day. Just make sure you get your, your whatever, the 5 races that you need to get in there and stuff like that. And he's like, maybe just wait a couple of races, see how the races play out and stuff like that. And, he's like, just get yourself situated. So, we go, we get something to eat, I have my coffee and everything, and I'm looking at the races. And,
the thing that I didn't,
the thing that I didn't
your coffee black, you put creamer in it. How do you take your coffee?
Oh, cream and sugar.
Okay, good.
Sometimes, sometimes I drink it black, but I'm a half and half guy.
I got to ask the pressing questions here. The public wants to know more about Bobby.
I know. No, cream and sugar. So I'm looking at the races, and so the first race is getting ready to go off, and I'm like, man, I love this. The 2 horses that I really liked were the 1 and the 3, and I had called Hubert, earlier, and I was like, well, just start looking at Keeneland. So like, if I need some backup or whatever, or if I need somebody to bounce some ideas off of, just, let me know what you think. So he liked the 1 in the first race, and I loved the 1. And then I also liked the 3. So I was like, shit, man, maybe I shouldn't wait, but it was like speed handicap. And I was like, I'll wait. And it came out 1-3. The exacta paid really nice, and I was like, "Damn!" I could have, I could have smacked that exacta box, and I would have put some money on it because it was, because it was a $3,500 tournament, and it was like 2,500 is your bankroll, and then the 1,000 goes into the prize pool, And I think if I, and this also leads me to, like, I know there was another one of the other guys had asked about how you do your how do you figure out your tournament plays. Well, it all depends
Mike
on
Whitney.
how prepared you are, and you got to follow the rules of the tournament. Like in that particular tournament, it was you had to make 5 wagers minimum of X amount of dollars per wager, and it could be whatever they gave you a parameter of. You could do win, you could do place, you could do show, you can do a combination of win, place, or show. You can do an exacta, trifecta, and double. So so like you could do a combination of you could do a combination of everything. So if the budget is you have to spend $500 per race, you could put $100 to win and place on the horse. You could do whatever, as long as that wager is, that first wager is, totals the amount of, what you're supposed to do. So in those tournaments, what I like to do is, and you also have to also read what the rules are too, because sometimes some of the tournaments are, you're only allowed to make 5 wagers and that's it, but other tournaments, they give you the minimum. They say, this is what you could do. You have to spend, so say like in that particular case, it was 2,500. So if I remember correctly, it was, you had to spend $400 minimum, maximum. You couldn't spend no more, no less than $400 each wager, for that race. And then the other $500, you could do whatever you want. There was no minimum bets or max. There was like, there's no minimum, no maximum, meaning that you can
Go all in.
do your minimum bets, right? Make sure you get your minimum qualifications out of the way, and then whatever money that you make profit at any of those bets, and whatever is left, so if there's 500, you have to spend the whole 2,500. So you have to make your 5 minimum bets, plus you have to spend the total of the 2,500, right? And then you get to keep whatever, but so say like if you make your 5 minimum bets in the first 5 races, and say like now you're up $10,000. Now you have $500 that you have to spend to finish your 2,500 that you spent already, and then whatever's left over, now you could do whatever you want with the wagers that they give you. So now, if you want, you can you did your minimums. You played your whole 2,500. You hit your 5 minimum races. Whatever. Now you got this money to play with. Now you can do whatever you want. So if you want to take $1,000 and do $1,000 win and place on a horse, you can. There's no minimum or maximum. You can keep betting as long as and then you could build up your bankroll as much as you want. So what I try to do is I try to get my minimum bets out of the way. So like somebody had asked me about the Pegasus. They were like, well, how so like I said, Keeneland, I was not prepared at all, and I was just making mistakes. And then the other thing that it killed me, because I didn't play the next race either, and I would have had the exacta. So I was like, shit. So now it's race 3, and I haven't even made a bet yet. So there was a horse that I really liked, and he wound up going off at like 13-1. And I said, man, I really love this friggin' horse. I said, I'm going to play this horse. And I go up, and I go to the counter, and I give them my card, and I go, because you got to punch in, your code and everything like that, so it brings up your account and everything. And they were having problems with my card, and now the horses are walking towards the gate and this and that, and I'm like, shit. And I was like, I can't get the card to work. And the guy came over, he tried to help me, then he had to do something with the card. I'm like, shit, they're walking into the gate. So I go and I go to put my wager, and I was going to do I was going to do $200 to win in place on the 5-horse, and the gates had already opened and the race went off, and I couldn't. The bet didn't go through. And I was like, shit. I get back and the friggin' horse wins. He pays like $25 and change. I was so pissed because that would have been my first bet. I was like, damn. But
with a start like that, how can you really recover? You're already buying screwed.
Yeah, and then so then after that then I just started making stupid wagers. Like I said, I wasn't prepared. So after Keeneland, Brett was like, hey, it happens and stuff like that. He's like, listen, he goes, I went all in on a couple horses, it didn't work out or whatever. Actually, Jake was there and he was doing really good. And I should have
Which Jake? Jake Warden?
Jake Warden, he was there, yeah. And he was
I really
doing
like Jake Warden. He's a good handicapper.
He's very good, and he's a really good dude too.
Yeah.
So I got to hang out with him too at Keeneland.
Oh, that's cool. I'd love to hang out with him.
Oh,
Jake,
yeah,
if you're listening, come to Santa Anita and let's hang out.
He will.
Or maybe I'll go over there and hang out with you guys.
Yeah. And Keeneland's beautiful, by the way. So if anybody, if it's on your bucket list, definitely go. I really,
it is number one on my bucket list. Keeneland is number one. I need to go.
Yeah,
the fact that I haven't
is
crazy, and I'm going to go.
It is really, really nice. You will like that track. It is really beautiful over there.
I have never heard anybody say anything bad about Keeneland. Seriously, I've never heard anybody say anything bad. I hear a lot of people say bad things about Churchill. I even hear some people say bad things about Saratoga. Although I want to go to Saratoga. Of course I want to go. I'm going to go.
Well,
numerous times.
The one bad thing about, not that it's bad, it's just Saratoga has something, what is called old world charm. And it just looks, it's like the way it looks is the way it looks. That's it. They might put fresh paint on there and stuff like that. But like when you go to Saratoga, like you feel like you're back in like the 1930s. You know what I'm saying?
Same way with Santa Anita, and people complain about it.
Yeah,
people are like, "Oh, it looks old fashioned."
No. So what?
I like it.
That's what makes that's what makes the track different from other places.
Exactly, it gives it prestige.
I don't. Yeah, it gives it. That's what gives it its ambiance. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I like about Saratoga, the ambiance of the feel of the place. But I mean, like anywhere else, they do upgrades and they add stuff and this and that. So they kind of modernize it in a way. But like the old structure is still there. From the beginning. So that is, and that's why I hate that they're knocking down Belmont and building a new Belmont and everything like that. Like I've been to Belmont a couple times, and there was another place that I thought was beautiful, and it had that like Ivy League college feel to it. Like when you went to Belmont, you got the ivy hanging off the walls, and Keeneland has the same feel too. Like when you go there, you feel like you're at Harvard or Yale or something like that. Like that's how beautiful the place is and prestige, it is. And, but, yeah, I mean, that's the old, that's the charm of some of these places. It's like, I mean, some places need to be fixed up. I mean, some places are just dungeons, and yeah. And like, I remember when I first went to Churchill, I wasn't like, this is Churchill. I was like, shit, man, this place is not really that nice, but I mean, fresh coat of paint here and some upgrades there. And now I'm sure, you're talking, that was 2010, and everybody's like, I don't go to Churchill. Churchill's a crap hole. But I'm sure now it's nice. They had to probably, fix it up and everything, especially with all the, stuff going on the last 10 years and stuff like that, and trying to be competitive and everything. Yeah. But it just stinks because Churchill is in such a, it's not in the greatest of areas, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, and it's so cool because when you go to Churchill, actually the Louisville football stadium is like right across the street. It's like right there. Like you could see it from the parking lot. You're like, oh shit, there it is, Louisville, right there. The football stadium is beautiful. That football stadium is beautiful.
Did you explain the ambiance of Tampa Bay Downs?
So Tampa Bay Downs is I think it's a cute, quaint little track. Like it's very bougie, very charming. It's small. The thing that I like about Tampa a lot is that you can go anywhere in a hop, skip, or jump. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't, it's not like some places like, you go to Monmouth or you go to Gulfstream and you got to walk through the building and you got to walk under the trestle and you got to, you're walking down this tunnel to go from the paddock to the
Oh
thing.
yeah.
It's like some of these, I was like, who thought of how to build these places sometimes? It's like, why do I got to walk through the whole building just to go to the paddock? The one thing, and, the one thing I like about Tampa is everything is right there. So it's like the paddock is right here, the circle is right there, the track is right here. They come right out here, and then the rail is right there. The general admission is right there. In 3 steps, I can go from the paddock to the bar. Boom, you're done. You know what I'm saying? And if I got to go upstairs to the clubhouse within a couple minutes, boom, you're there. So like,
that was my only complaint about Hollywood Park. Rest in peace, Hollywood Park, 2013.
that was
Uh,
another place I
yeah,
always
and,
heard about that.
let me tell you, it's funny that you say that because it had the weirdest layout. The paddock was so far away from the track, and the paddock was so far away from the clubhouse. Literally, it was like a 10-minute walk from the clubhouse to the paddock.
And a lot of tracks are like that. I'm like, why? You want to make it like fan friendly. They didn't make
even
it.
Santa Anita, which fits a lot more people than Hollywood Park, you can't blame it on the size. I mean, Santa Anita fits 80,000 people like a glove, and
Really?
yeah,
That many people? Holy shit!
Santa Anita is a huge property. It's 330 acres.
Damn, I
And
didn't realize it was that big.
and seriously, like you could from where Clocker's Corner starts on one side all the way where the clubhouse turn is. I mean, it's almost a mile walk, and there's a lot of. But the way it's designed is pretty good because you don't really have to walk far from the paddock to the clubhouse or to the grandstand. But
Yeah,
I've
because
seen
when
some
you
tracks,
go
like you say, some tracks you got to go the whole other side of the track is the
right,
paddock to the clubhouse. It's
like
insane.
Gulfstream is like that. I mean, one thing that's unique about Gulfstream is that the paddock there is they have stadium seating around the paddock, so that's
Yeah, I
pretty
see that on
cool.
TV.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool, but it's a pain. You got to walk, through the building to get to the other side, to get to where the general admission area is, to go by where the track is and stuff like that. And Monmouth is like that. I'm like, why did they do this? It's like, it's like, riders up and then the horses leave the paddock. And then, by the time you get from the paddock up and to try to get a spot, by the rail, the race, it's like, it takes you 10 minutes just to get there. And they're
Yeah,
already
that was Hollywood
they're
Park.
already
Yeah,
loading into the gate. And sometimes you miss the break sometimes. And then you want to go place a wager. Then you got to do that. Half the times you miss them leaving the gate and everything like that.
yeah, that'll
So
happen.
so to get back to the Keeneland thing, so I totally dropped the ball that day, and I was like, when I came home, I felt like garbage. I was like, man, because I had once I got in the groove, I had a lot of nice winners and I had a lot of nice picks and stuff like that. It was just too late, and I didn't pull the trigger hard enough on some horses and this and that. So I was like, you know what, just chalk it up, and that's it, learning experience. But when I came home and and I had told Hubert what happened, I said, Hubert, that is not. I'm not going to let that happen again. So when Breeders' Cup came around and Corey and Trey were going out there and stuff like that. Like I said to them, I'm like, I'm gonna be so prepared for the Breeders' Cup. It's gonna be ridiculous. And I knew who I liked in every race, how I was gonna play it, what I was gonna do, what kind of wagers. I had everything written down. and if I needed to make adjustments or whatever, but I normally, when I'm feeling good on a card, like that, I don't, I rarely make adjustments. You know what I'm saying? I go with, what I know is, or what I like. And it's just, there's just some days where you're totally on, and then there's other days where you're totally off. So it was so funny because, so Corey, I felt so bad for him. That's why I wanted to go, because I wanted to be like that extra person. But like, he got out there, he had problems with his, he went out there on, so the Breeders' Cup was Friday and Saturday. So he flew out there Thursday because he wanted to play the feeder tournament that Brett and everybody was playing to get, we didn't have a seat. So he was going to try to win the seat at the tournament, at the live tournament that day.
Yeah.
So he flew out there, flight was late. He had a problem with the rental car. Then he hit traffic driving. So he same thing like what kind of happened to me at Keeneland. He gets there. He doesn't have anything mapped out for the day yet. He was just going to go and just start working on it when he got there, because he didn't think it was, so he's getting there like 20 minutes before, the first race and all this stuff. So he's like a little bit frazzled and this and that. So we tried, and he did okay, but like I said, we wound up losing. So now, so he loses, and he's like, well, he had, he made enough to win cash. So he's like, well, let's make some wagers so maybe we can, make the buy-in. I'm like, the buy-in is $10,000. What are you talking about? He's like, you know what we got to do? So the next day on Friday, you could still buy in. And some tournaments, they, like you got, this is why you got to read the rules, because, like you can buy into the tournament, like up to a certain race. So say like Breeders' Cup Day, you were able to buy into that tournament before the first Breeders' Cup race goes off. So, that day they had a couple early races that day. It was so funny. So he says to me, he goes, well, let's play the pick five, the early pick five. Okay, we'll play the pick five. He goes, maybe we'll get lucky. So we handicapped the pick five. I tell him, so I call Hubert. I'm like, who do you like? I said, I love this 3-horse in the first race with what's his name? Rispoli. I said, I love this 3-horse. And I said, I think this horse is a single. He's like, yeah. He goes, I love that horse too. So so when Corey calls me, he's like, okay, who we got? Who we going with in pick five? So I said, whatever you do, you have to put the 3 in there in the first race. So he goes, he makes the wager.
We're talking about Lady Prancelot?
It was that Bulgeringer horse or something like that. It was a turf race. First
race of the day, right?
Was the first race of the day. And I think he was like,
Lady Prancelot won because I was in a box seat with John Fox. Mo Fox Given ran in that same race and ran third with Pratt. Rispoli won on a horse that was a big closer.
Yeah, that was the horse that I loved in that race. And I said, whatever you do,
6-1.
Yeah, and I said you got to put the 3 in there, and then you play whoever you want. And then I said, I also like I kind of like the Mo Fox horse. So if you want to use him, use him, and then put whoever you want. So we handicapped all the races, and then there was a race that Jose Ortiz won in like the 4th race or something like that. And I didn't have the horse, but he put the horse in there because he saw
the 8-horse.
Yeah, the 8-horse.
It was a long shot.
Yeah, he was a long shot. So he put that horse in there, but he didn't play the 3 in the first race. We got knocked out in the first race. We would have hit. He wound up going with Pratt's horse, and he threw the 3 out, and he's like, I'm going to go with Pratt instead. So I was like, oh. the pick five paid. We had it. We had every race, and the ticket didn't even cost that much. And the pick five paid $23,000, and we would have been able to buy into the tournament. We would have been able to buy 2 seats and have $3,000 left over.
Oh my gosh.
For play buddy. But then I said, how stupid are we? So if you remember the second leg, I wanted, me and him, we really loved the 7 horse, that Alvarado horse.
Yeah.
And I
Golden
thought
Gate.
that he was 5-2 on the morning line. I'm like, this fucking horse is a single, man. I was like, I really love this horse. And I said, how stupid are we? I love the 3, and we both love the 7. I was like, here we could have the double for $1 with the 3 and the 7 paid $75 for $1. I was like, man, we could have, you had cash on you. We could have smacked, even if you put the other horses in there, we could have smacked that early double for like $300. Those 3 horses, and then singled the 7, and that would have we would have won $7,500 just on that wager alone. And I was like, shit, then we only need one more race to friggin', to get us over the 10,000. And I was like, man, how stupid are we? Sometimes we just do stupid things, but it's like, but I was, oh my God, me and him, we joke about this up until this day. We were talking the other night, and he still says he wants to throw up that that he left the 3 off the ticket. I was like, damn, and I said to him, I was like, and it was just, there's just, there's just certain days sometimes I really have, like, you look at the card and you handicap it, and you just know how it's going to kind of go that day. So when you get that flow, you got to go with it. And like Breeders' Cup Day, if we had a seat and we were together, I don't know if we would have won, but we would have been in the top 5. We would have smashed the shit out. I told him, I said, listen, I said, we're not, I said, if I get up there, we're not leaving with less than $100,000 today. I'm telling you right now. I said, I will be prepared and ready. And the same thing with the Pegasus. I just, it was one of those days where my handicapping was spot on, and I had everything in place. And if I would have, I would have been, I had that early cold exacta. It wasn't cold, but I loved those 2 horses, the 3 and the 9, and that would have been my first wager. I would have boxed the shit out of that wager, and boom, I would have been right off the bat. I would have been up $24,000 right there, and then I would have just, I said, it's full throttle on. I'm like, I'm just gonna step on the gas and just not look back. It's gonna be catch me if you can today, And
Let's go back to some questions from the group. Frank Jaramillo wants to know, what are some of your favorite handicapping angles?
Handicapping angles. So
I'd like to know this too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got a bunch. Obviously second, third off the layoff. That's always, second, third off the layoff, in the form cycle, that's always,
of course,
always been a top angle, one of the first angles, that I learned. So, it's always a good rule. I like another angle I like dirt horses that have early speed and or class, or both, that are bred for the turf and are going from dirt to turf for the first time. That's an angle I especially a horse that has speed. I picked up many horses like that people don't look at. They're like, oh, he's going on the turf for the first time, or whatever. But that's an angle that I like a lot. It doesn't, like any other angle, it doesn't always work, but it has worked for me many times, and I've picked up some nice horses that way. Obviously one of the big ones is maiden special weight horses dropping down in class into a maiden claiming. You know, that's everybody knows that's probably the biggest class drop a horse will ever take.
The biggest
You know,
class drop in horse racing.
well, it's yeah, that's one of the one of the first things that you learn, and it's one of the class drops that like are the most like not suspicious. That's like a normal thing that trainers will do. They just know, hey, listen, our horse is not good enough to run maiden specials, so they drop them down into that. And obviously horses that show early speed in those races,
Yeah.
and they kind of like they show speed and then kind of quit.
I was just going to add that. I was thinking, I mean, I think they got to show something,
right.
at least
Or
they got to show that they ran a little bit.
And sometimes sometimes it's a gut feeling. It's like I've picked up, I've used horses sometimes where they just didn't run a lick. Something happened. They broke bad. They broke slow. Maybe the jockey didn't want to overcome the horse with in his first race like that, so they kind of just ran like an even race, and they just ran a merry-go-round race and said, shit, the horse didn't do anything, I'm just not going to kill him. Why should I kill him today? We'll save him for another day. So like when horses come back like that sometimes, and if they're working out good and the horse makes sense, like sometimes I'll go with one of those horses at a big price, because I'm looking at it as, well, what I look at is, and even if they're coming back, I like it when they're coming back into the maiden special weight condition, because it's telling me that, the trainer is willing to give that horse a second try. So it makes me look at the horse and say, well, shit, now I'm going to view this horse. He didn't run a lick, so I'm going to look at him as a first-time starter. We don't know what he's going to do. And I've caught a couple of horses like that at big prices. I caught a horse like that one time. He came in second by a nose bob, but the horse was like 20-1 on the morning line, didn't get bet, and he was like 30-1, and he just lost the nose bob. And everybody's like, well, what did you see in that? Well, I just told you that. I said we don't know. So why am I going to take a horse that's going to be 2-5, and we don't know, we don't know what this horse can do yet. He hasn't shown you anything. So this horse probably could have a chance. So I'm always willing to take a chance on a horse like that. It doesn't bother me, because what's going to happen? I'm going to get beat by the 2-5. All right. So what? I'm not making any money on that horse anyway. So what's the difference, Another angle is distance changes or distance specialists, like horses going from a sprint to a route, or from a route to a sprint. Especially horses that have been sprinting, like
A route?
like
Are you
younger
Canadian? Are you Canadian? A route?
a route race, a route race, whatever you want to call it. Going first routing. But like I like horses that like were maybe the first few races they were sprinting, and now the trainer is stretching them out for the first time, and the breeding says that they'll be okay, and they've been running in really, really fast races, and now they're going
You
now
like when they go from route to sprint?
I like route to I'm not a drastic switch up guy. So like I know a lot of people like they see a horse that was racing a mile and an eighth or a mile and 16th, and now they're cutting back to like 5 furlongs or 6 furlongs. I don't like that unless the horse is like total speed. Like I don't like the drastic. I don't mind like a horse going from like a mile to 7 furlongs or 6.5 furlongs or 6 furlongs or 7.5, like that slight cutback. And especially if the horse has
I actually love that slight cutback.
yeah, I mean that, especially if the horse has speed. Like if the horse is running in sprint races, and he's still running in his route races at like 22, 23, first clip, second clip,
They get
stuff
really
like
fit
that.
off those mile races, mile and a 16th.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like if the horse has speed or early speed, and then you're cutting it back just a little bit, I mean, the horse could probably wire the field that way, so that's how I look at it. Horses that are distance specialists, this horse ran, 6 furlongs 10 times, and he won maybe like 4 or 5 times, and he came in second a bunch of times. So horses that like, certain distances, that they run in. And then of course, horse for courses and surfaces. There's horses out there that just love the turf, or just love the dirt, or just love the synthetic or whatever, and they just always seem to run well on that. Another obvious one, first time gelding. A lot of people love that angle, especially first time gelding, first time Lasix, and it's a combo deal. It didn't work out for me and Mike the other day at at Gulfstream, where me and him loved that 3 horse. I don't know if you remember him talking about that horse. He was like 20-1 in the morning line, but he saw everything that I was seeing in that, first time Lasix, first time gelding. And I'm like, the horse didn't run a lick in his first race. And I'm like, they're bringing him back. I'm like, this horse, he ran pretty good. I mean, he pretty much, he was up with the speed the whole way, and then he wound up quitting. But maybe next time out, he comes back again. But he was looking at the same thing I was kind of looking, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's a horse I would take a chance on. Sure, why not? And Lone Speed could be good, and Lone Speed could be bad. Like it was funny because my father-in-law used to tell me, he's like, speed, always remember this, speed kills. And I'm like, what? He's like, speed kills. He goes, but you got to think of it as a double-edged sword. I'm like, how do you mean? He goes, well, speed can kill you if it's Lone Speed and the horse wires you, or speed could kill because you got 3 or 4 horses out there that are all speedsters, and they're going to kick the crap out of each other on the front end, and then a closer is going to come and fly right by them and stuff like that. So you gotta take the race and figure out what the pace is going to be, how it's going to set up, what the scenario you think is.
I hope Joanne passed the coochie, the foxy Joanne passed the coochie. We know her. She was asked, she wanted you to explain, how do you see a Lone Speed horse in a race? Like, how do you figure, hey, this horse is going to be Lone Speed?
Well, I'll give you an example. So remember Saturday at Santa Anita. So Pratt had a horse on the turf that was coming back.
Bella Bell.
I love that horse. Did I play the horse? No, because I'm a fucking idiot. I looked at the race and I'm like, this horse is coming, and that's another thing. That was
my paddock pick too. If you would have seen the horse on the paddock, you would have been like, "Oh my god!"
No, I mean, I like the horse on paper. I
liked her on both too, but
when I was breaking down the race, I'm like, there is absolutely no speed in this race except for her. I'm like, everybody else is a deep closer. I mean, they're going to be chasing this girl. I said, this horse is coming off a year layoff, which is, and this is another thing. So, just so all the viewers out. Dirt horses and turf horses, for some reason, are a little bit different. So never be afraid to play a turf horse off a long layoff. I don't care if it's a year, 6 months, whatever. For some reason, turf horses hold their form coming back off layoffs way better than dirt horses do. If you have a dirt horse that's coming back first time after a year, I'm going to wait on that horse or put him underneath, because normally the dirt horse, for whatever reason, unless he's working out like a monster and you're getting like 58 workouts, 59 workouts, 47s, 46, and he's working lights out.
It wouldn't hurt to look at the trainer stats either.
And the trainer stats, okay, I could see that. But for some reason, turf horses come back better than dirt horses. So I'm looking at the race and I'm like, well, she's the only one that has any kind of speed. He's going to put her on the lead and he's not going to look back. And these horses are going to be chasing her. And this is going to be a merry-go-round race. He's, and I'm like, I think people are they're going to be afraid to play her because she's coming off a year layoff. But I wouldn't be. I would have, I would have happily put that horse on top, but I didn't play that race. But I said to Hubert, I was like, I called him up and I'm like, what do you make of this race? I'm like, Pratt's going to go wire to wire with this horse. There's no speed in there. And he was like, he saw the same thing. And he's like, I think you're right. He goes, I think he wins easily with this horse. So, I mean, so how do you find, well, you got to, you got to look at the horse, what the horse's patterns are, and how fast the horse is up front. Because you might have a bunch of speed horses, but some of them are just faster out the gate than other horses. So, like, I'm pretty good at, and what Hubert says about me is that he loves how I handicap the pace scenario of a race. Like I can call Hubert up and I could tell there could be 10 horses in the race, and I'll call him and I'll tell him, okay, listen, 3 is going to get the lead. The 5 is going to be right behind him. The 6 is going to be right behind him. Then, these 2 horses are going to lay back. And this one's, like he is like out, like he's like, your vision of the pace scenario is like, I can't even explain, because 9 times out of 10, you're sometimes I get it wrong. But most of the time, if you ask me, I'll tell you where each horse is going to be. And usually I'm pretty accurate. So, like, when you're looking at the, what's lone speed, you got to see how fast this horse is coming out the gate. So you look at the early fractions, like if you got 4 speed horses, 5 speed horses, well, if the 3 is coming out the gate at 20 and change, 21, 22, and then the other 3 or 4 horses are coming out at like 23, 22, and they're running the same distances, well, that the 3 horse is the fastest out the gate out of everybody, especially if he's got somebody like Saez or Jose on him or something, or a speed jockey. They're going to get this horse right out the gate, and and they're going to go for the clear lead. So nowadays we have the help of time form that gives you kind of like what the pace scenario numbers are going to be. Like when you look on the form and you see those numbers that show like the early speed, 123, and then the late speed 79 or something like that. So like that helps you, for those that can't or don't want to take the time to figure out, like like how we used to do it back in the day, figure out the times and figure out who's going to get the lead and how fast they're coming out the gate. You could just see it in the first calling, of where everybody's going to be. But now, the 3 is a 129, the 4 is a 113, this horse is 100, this one is a 99, who's a 63, so like with the help of time form, like it makes it a little bit easier for those people that don't want to do the math or be bothered by looking at every single race and trying to figure it out. Like I can eyeball it. As soon as I see it, I'm already got the visual concept of where everybody's going and what everybody's doing. But the time form numbers, do help you in that way. So, you'll see who's going to get the, pretty much, unless somebody has a bad break, then
do you ever utilize replays in your handicapping?
I do sometimes,
Sometimes.
Well, I don't always do it, because sometimes I just remember the race. I'm pretty good at that, so I don't have to look at the replays all the time. I remember because I had a particular horse in that particular race, and I'm like, damn, that freaking horse got hemmed in at the rail. He got shuffled. He got kicked back, and I don't even have to read the thing on the side. Because I saw it all. I remember what happened that day because I was so pissed about it. But like, if there's races that I'm unsure about, and like, like sometimes the notes on the side, they over or under, explain. So if I'm a little bit not sure, then I don't always look at the replays, but I do look at the replays sometimes, and I'll go back and I'll see what, what are they trying to tell me here? It's like, I'm a little bit, sometimes I might get confused on, like, what really happened? Was it that dramatic? Was it not? And then I'll look at the replays and I'll make my own, determination. Or it could be a race that I sort of remember, and I'm like, damn, I got to go back to the replay and see exactly what happened, because I'm not too sure if my recollection is proper, you know.
Do you ever watch the replay immediately after the race has been finished? That replay?
Sometimes, if there's any kind of shenanigans that went on, like sometimes I'll wait and I'll watch the replay. Like if I see like a jockey stiff a horse or something like that, or I'll be like, man, I just got stiffed there. What the hell that happened? Or if a horse got into traffic trouble, you know, like I'll watch the replay right after they show the race again. And then sometimes I'll go back to the replay. Like sometimes there's an inquiry or something like that, and it doesn't go your way, and then like I'll wait for the replay so I can go back and look at it again and again and stop it and pause it, and you know, what am I missing here? Why did they take this horse down or not take this horse down or whatever, you know? So yeah, so sometimes, yeah, I mean, sometimes I utilize, if I can't imagine it in my brain, then I use the replays, and I'm a big proponent of the replays. You should, you know, if you're, you know, like for us, you know, we're, for those people that don't watch the races every single day or watch their particular races that they're playing all the time, it's because some people just, you know, they, you know, and sometimes I'm the same way too. Sometimes I just make my wagers for the day, or I play my tournaments and I go about my business for the day, and I don't even watch any of the races. I just, you know, go back and check my stats later, see what's going on, where am I, what I'm doing,
Bobby,
and stuff like that. We have a life
people,
too, you know. It's like it's not just all about racing. You know, I want to go and enjoy the beach sometimes, you know.
Bobby, some people, when you watch a race, I don't know about you, but I'm curious because I know a lot of people, and me in particular, when they watch a race, they're mostly focused on the horses that they bet on. That way, but when you look at it that way, you might miss another horse on the race that had some trouble that you weren't paying attention to. Now, when you watch a race, are you mostly focusing on the horse you bet?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of 50-50 on that one. Sometimes I do have tunnel vision, and I'm just focused on my particular horse and what he's doing, you know, especially if the horse had trouble the last time, and I'm just concentrating on that horse. I'm like, okay, don't get in trouble, don't get in trouble, don't get, okay. But yeah, and then you're not paying attention, you know, but sometimes, you know, and then there's times where I'm just watching the whole flow of the race and just trying to see what everybody else is doing and stuff like that. So it's
if Joel Rosario's on the horse, don't you kind of look at it a little more further, a little closer?
I don't even play that guy anymore. Like I can't even.
Well, he's with us now, so.
Huh?
He's with us here in Santa Anita now, so.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's, you know, I don't know. I can't gauge him anymore. I mean, it's like I play him, he doesn't show up. He's like Irad for me, you know. Like Irad is hard for me to catch. I play him. I think he's on a good horse, and then he doesn't show up. And then on a horse that I don't like, and he's on, he dominates. It's like what, you know. And Rosario's the same way. It's like, you know, I play him, and I don't play jockeys. You know, I play the horse first,
yeah,
and you know, and if the jockeys fall into line or whatever, or if I see something like, you know, and that's another angle, like jockey upgrades or changes that you know that leads us into you know, into another angle that a lot of people like, you know, and you know, sometimes it's, you know, it's beneficial for a horse, you know, like sometimes you know, a top jockey can add a couple lengths to a horse, like you know, say like if you had a low wind jockey on a horse, and the last couple times, you know, the horse only lost by like a length, half a length, a nose, a head, or something like that. Like you put somebody like Irad on there, or Paco, or Saez, or Gaffleon, or something like that. Well, you know, maybe that now that horse can, you know, like a jockey sometimes can add 5 lengths to a horse. You know what I'm saying? Just because of the way they ride and stuff like that. You know, so now, you know, if you get a horse and you get a jockey change and you see, oh man, you know, the horse only lost by a half a head, you know, a half a head the last couple of times, and now you're getting Saez on the horse. Well, he's going to be closing hard with this horse. He's whatever. So, that might be the difference in that horse.
Was it half a head of nose?
Huh?
You said half a head.
Yeah, like a head, a half a head, a nose, a whisker. That that
Half a
jockey
head.
upgrade, and even 5 lengths. I've seen horses like they lost by 5 lengths here, 5 lengths there. And they go from a guy that only won a couple races a year, and then they go to somebody like like Paco or or Saez or something like that. Now the horse is winning by 5 lengths, in that race. I've seen that too. So going from a low percentage jockey to a high percentage jockey, that could be the difference in in winning that race if you like that horse to come around.
There's a lot of ways to look at it. It could also be some jockeys aren't as good on the turf, so you can have a low percentage turf jockey, and it goes to a turf specialist. That's another thing you could look at as well.
Right, or it could be that in the previous races the jockey had other obligations, and now maybe the jockey used to ride that horse, and maybe he had obligations to ride a different horse in the last race or two, and now he's back riding on this horse again in a different race that he doesn't have an obligation to, and then and he comes back and he wins. So there's a lot. There's a few scenarios to look for that, but a jockey upgrade is always it's always a good thing no matter what. So it's a piece of the puzzle to always take into consideration into your handicapping and stuff.
What would you recommend?
And a lot of people just love betting jockeys. They just bet the jockeys and that's it, or the trainers, or the jockey trainer combos and stuff like that.
Like Joanne,
and a lot of people win like that.
Brothers. Our friend Joanne, all she does is bet the Ortiz brothers.
Yeah, she loves Iraq.
She loves those guys. Those are her children.
Yeah, I know. Those are her children. Now, I personally love Jose. I'm not.
I think he's really good on speed horses. I've always thought he
is. Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people notice that, but boy, you get Jose Ortiz on the lead,
yeah,
he is hard to pass. And I'm not saying he can't close. I'm just saying like he's really good on the lead.
You're absolutely right. Him. I love Jose Lascano on speed horses.
Oh yeah, he's really good too.
So and especially on the turf, like him, like Jose Lascano back in the day, and obviously JJ. Those were like my 2 favorite turf jockeys back then. Those were my go-to guys with Rafael Bejarano. Those were my 3 jockeys back in the day.
Oh, back here West Coast, if anybody's betting West Coast, a really good speed jockey is Edwin Maldonado.
I love him.
Is amazing out of the gate.
I think he's so underrated.
He's very underrated. He could ride anything.
Me and Nelson always talk about him. We always like that kid.
Yeah, and he's a really good guy in person too. He's really easy to root for. He's a good guy, and he
could ride. He could ride.
And a lot of people just they typecast him as a speed jockey, which he is wonderful speed, wonderful gate jockey. But he could ride the turf. He could ride the sprint route, anything you give him, he could ride. The guy could horseback, and if you see him on a horse, do not ever hesitate to bet. Edwin Maldonado could win on anything. Just give a lot of these guys. I mean, I know you agree with me, Bobby, but
I do.
A lot of these jockeys out there, you give them the horse, they will win.
They will. And a lot of them don't win because they don't get the mounts that some of the other high-profile jockeys. And and it's a double-edged sword because the high-profile jockeys became the high-profile jockeys because they did they were winning, and they were and they get the mounts, and those are the and they built up relationships with whatever trainers and owners, and those are the go-to people that they go to, and so it's like you get some of these guys that are just as good, given the opportunity, but they get lost in the shuffle, and and they get and then they wind up getting like downgraded and stuff like that. But I agree with you. I mean, there's certain jockeys out there that you give them a really good horse just like everybody else, and they can win just as much as everybody else.
Now, Bobby, what would you? We have a lot of newbies in the group, a lot of newbies in particular in horse racing that want to learn. What would you tell them if they're getting into horse racing and they want to learn? What are some things that they should look at? What are some things they should do, in your personal opinion?
Well, I think one thing they should do is maybe get a couple handicapping books.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first started learning, Johnny gave me he had a bunch of books. I remember one of the books that I've read was Brad Free's book. I thought his book was really good.
Brad Free's a very smart guy.
Very, and I learned so much from that book. I had to read it a couple of times because I didn't know what the hell I was reading at first, but that's okay. If you have to read it 2 or 3 times, that's okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean, I'm I think Jerry Bailey had a book. I read his book. Pat Day had a book. I think I read his book. He had the Andrew Beyer book. I read that book. So it was like reading. Learning the form, learning how to read the form, and and everybody, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know how to read the form. But if you go in the daily racing form, like the program that you get for the day, when they have a page in there that gives. Do I have it? I have it somewhere. I printed it out the other day because there was a couple things on the form that I was like, damn, I forgot what this means, and what do these numbers mean? But if like when you're in the DRF, they give you that one page where it tells you everything, what each section, what the numbers mean, what and it tells you. So read that index because that will help you a lot in understanding. Like,
And you printed it out. I maybe you could.
I printed it out like a week ago because there was a couple things that I forgot what they were for, and I'm like, damn, what are these numbers for? I forgot, and I always see it, and I always forget.
That's
But I
very good
printed it
advice
out
to
the
have
other
in there.
day. I printed it out the other day because there was a couple stats in there that I was like, damn, what are these numbers for? And I was like, damn, I don't remember. So I printed it out just so I can, go over it again. And then there was a lot of things on there that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about these, what this means and what that means and what this number is for and what that number is for. So, definitely look at that index, because really when you look at the racing form, people are like, oh, this is Chinese. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. So learn how to read the form, learn how to, uh, obviously the main thing is stick to the basics. Stick to the basics. Stick to the basics. Basics are when you first class. You know the horses that the horse is running against. What kind of class that the horse is running in. The conditions. That's twofold: the conditions of the race and the condition of the horse. What kind of form is he in? Is he in good form? Is he not in good form? Why is he in good form? Is he in good form because he's racing? Is he improving? Is he racing and he's getting and he's winning because he's in the class that he's supposed to be in? And then there's speed. How fast are they? How fast is this horse? Can the horse hold the speed? Is he in and out? Is he consistent with his speed? Then then there's distance. Like I used to, I still am. I'm a big distance guy. Like, has the horse done the distance before? Does he like the distance? Does his breeding suggest that he can get the distance if he's doing it for the first time or whatever? Does he do it consistently? How does he run? Does he, is he off the board? Maybe it's this particular distance is too long for him. He likes this distance. Maybe he likes a mile. Maybe he likes a mile and an eighth. Maybe a mile and a half or a mile and a quarter is too much for him. So, and workouts. Learn how to read the workouts and the workout patterns. That's I never used to I never used to, you know, read the workouts and stuff like that. But now I understand how important the workouts are, and understanding how, what's a good workout, what's a not good workout, what trainers, what their patterns are. Is the horse working in a steady pattern? The trainer intent. Some trainers don't like to show their, like Pletcher. Pletcher doesn't like to show his workouts on paper. So like you look at a horse and he's like, 6 to 5 in the morning line, but I'm like, you look at the workouts and he's like, there's nothing special about these workouts. Well, yeah, there is, because he doesn't work out the horse. He works out the horse after the work is over. That's when he works out the horse. That's his pattern. So the true workout doesn't come after he did the 48 seconds. It doesn't come when he does the 48-second, 4 furlongs. The workout comes after, that's unrecorded. That's when he works out the horse, because he doesn't want, some trainers do that. They play in that deception game, and they don't want you to know what their horses are doing. Because it's like a lot of these horses, it's like, yeah, this horse, then you see other trainers, they're working out 47, 46, 40, it's like, whoa, okay, yeah, this, he's throwing out bullets, 58, 59, 101, 1 minute. It's like, oh, okay. And you could see the steady patterns and, and stuff like that. So, so it's like, main thing is to learn the basics, have fun with it. What do you want to accomplish? Are you there to build bankroll? Are you there to just have fun for the day? Do you just want to win? You just want to pick winners? So it's all up to what you're trying to accomplish. Are you playing tournaments? Are you just, you're just into playing pick threes or whatever, or you just want to do exotics and play tries and exactas? So it's figure out what kind of wagers you like, stick with them, come up with a plan on how you're gonna, like
Well, that
me,
might be a question.
I depend, from race to race, I diversify sometimes.
Well, what
There's
would
some
you
races,
recommend the newbie to bet? Because the newbie doesn't know what he's doing. So they're going to you, Bobby. They're asking, hey, Bobby, how should I bet?
I would start with like win in place, just to get your feet wet. Maybe like pick a horse that you like to win, and maybe put like a few horses behind them in an exacta, cheap exacta or something like that. Start off small, see how you do, and things like that. Like, when I first started, like I said, I was very, very basic. It was, 10-10 and $1 try key. That's all I did. And then eventually I started learning, playing exactas and superfectas and pick threes and stuff like that. But like, yeah, like I remember going to Saratoga. That was like, I was very boring wager, but that's how I was taught. Like, like it was so funny because like John and Steve were so different. Like Stevie was the guy, and he finally made it to the NHC last year. I got to hang out with him at the NHC. I haven't seen him in years since I moved away from Massachusetts, but me and him always talked about going to the, I got a story about that too. So, but he's he's an all over the place person. Like, so he, my like when Johnny goes to the track, Johnny just plays Saratoga and Santa Anita. That's all he plays. He was a turf specialist, so he was the one that taught me how to do turf racing, and that's when I fell in love with turf racing and stuff like that. So he would just, if he was playing like Laurel or something, Delaware or something like that, like he would just go to the turf races, in those other tracks, and just maybe find one or two turf races that he liked, maybe like an allowance race or a stakes race or something like that. And then he would play that, but Stevie was one of those guys where, you come back to the table and he's got like 50 tickets in front of him. He's got a pick three going over here at Laurel. He's got $20 to win in place at Saratoga. He's got he's got 3 dog tracks going at the same time was like, I'm like, yeah, he's got the Meadowlands going on. It's like, what the? He's like, what? He would yell at him. He would say, Stevie, if you would just stick, you would be so dangerous if you would just stick to one. But he's like all over and he was the one that I learned how to do part wheels and boxes, and like I didn't even know you can even do that, And like one time I went up, I was hanging. Me and him went up to the window, and this was before it was just all tellers back then. You didn't have the punch in things that we do now, and you had
Machines.
to go to no machines. You had to go to the teller and tell them what you wanted and stuff like that. So like he was up, I was behind him one day, and I'm listening to him place all his wagers. And I'm like, he's like, yeah, give me Saratoga race 3. I want, give me, I'm gonna do a $2 exacta 2 with the 3, this and that. And I'm gonna do a 10-cent part wheel superfecta. Give me 2-3 with the 5-cent. And I'm standing there going, what the fuck? I'm like, what are you talking? What's a part wheel? What do you? It was like Chinese to me. I had no idea what the heck he was doing. He was like, he was like, give me this. Pick 3. I want the blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what are all these ways? He would come back and he would have like 100 tickets. And I'm like, geez, we need a whole freaking, we need a whole wall of TVs just for us to freaking keep track of all these ways, but that's how he was, and that's how he played. And then he showed me, he's like, oh, well, you could do this, you could do that. And I was like, you can? I was like, I didn't know you could do that. And I was like, then it kind of changed the dynamics of how I was playing, and that's why now, like, over the past couple of years that I found out you could do an exacta key box, like, me, like I run second a lot, so it's like, shit.
Not as much as me, but okay.
Yeah. I run second a lot, so it's so now that I'm like, well, shit, well, I'll take my second and I'll gladly lose to a 10-1 or 20-1 as long as I have them. And you know what I'm saying? I've cashed in some monster like exactas that way, where okay, because normally I would just, if I like the horse, I would just, key him on top, and I would just do like 2 or 3 horses that I like behind him, $6, $2, boom, you're done. But now I'm like, now you can key, and then I found out you could key on trifectas and superfectas, and I'm like, oh shit, are you serious? I'm like, all right, that was kind of, I mean, it's a little bit more expensive, and I don't do it often, but sometimes there's just one of those races where it's like, you want to use too many horses, that are like big prices, but you just want one of your key horses just to hit the board, and you don't care if you get beat by a 20-1 shot or a 10-1 shot, and you're like, oh shit, all right, if I can, if I could do that, I'm good, and then even though the wager might be a little bit more expensive than normal, I don't do it all the time, but sometimes there's, like, you look at a race and you see some opportunity there, like, man, I really like this particular key horse, but he doesn't really have to win today. And if he doesn't, and if he doesn't win, and even if he just holds on third, and I get an 8-1 shot or a 15-1 shot in front of him, oh, that trifecta is going to pay nicely. I don't care if I got the 3-1 in third, as long as we got the big shots up front. And if I hit, and if he wins, then he wins, and then maybe I just break even or just make an extra couple dollars or whatever. But I'll never forget the first time I ever went to Saratoga. So it was me, Johnny, and Stevie, and we went up there, and that was the first time I ever went, and I'll never forget. So we drove up in the morning, and we were just starting our vacation. So we got up real early in the morning. Like, we left at like 6 in the morning. We get up there, we go to the house, drop our stuff off, and then we go to the track. So we were kind of late. We probably got there like 10, like 50, we walked in like 15 minutes before post, and we didn't even, we ran up to the thing to get the forms. We didn't even have the forms for the day or anything yet. So Stevie says, come on, we got to go play the first race. And I'm like, we just got here. What do you mean play the first race? He's like, well, come on. He's like, let's go play the first race. I said, I didn't even look at the thing yet. He goes, well, speed handicap. I'm like, speed handicap? What the hell? I can't even regular handicap. You want me to speed handicap? But it was so funny because so me and him were online.
Hey, I've seen you speed handicap before.
I can speed handicap like
You
a
can do
mother.
now, right?
Oh my! It's like my go-to. I can speed handicap. I can break down a race in 3 minutes if I need to.
Remember
You
the
know?
time you and I were together, man? Me and
Yeah.
Lawrence were like, look at this fourth race at Santa Anita, and you came up with the 2, and it actually won. Also, we all had it. Remember? And remember who rode that horse? Van Dyke. He hasn't had a winner since.
I know. He's another one. I always thought he was a good jockey. It's just
It's all mental with him.
I
It's all
guess.
mental.
I guess.
He's a very emotional kid. He's
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, he's extremely emotional, and he lets his emotions get the best of him as well.
Which
It's a tricky. It's not easy. It's not easy. You got to be confident. You got to be, sure of yourself. And if you have any kind of timidness, the horses feel it too. They feel that energy.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, he could ride. But I remember you speed handicapping when I was with you in Lawrence, and you came up with that 2-horse in about 90 seconds. So that's why I'm wondering. You're telling me you can't speed handicap, and I see you come up with a nice 2-1 winner.
You're talking. This is like what? This is like 15 years ago. This is
okay.
This is like 2009. I want to might have been like 2008, 2009. Like I said, I'm just learning. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm like speed handicapping. What the fuck is that? So he's,
what? I want to let me say something.
We're in this long line. We got like 20 people.
Bobby, let me say something to the listeners out there. They need to hear this because trust me, there's a lot of newbies that are listening to this right now. Let me tell you, listen to what Bobby just said. If you remember what he said earlier in the podcast or in the interview, whatever you want to call this, he said in 2006 is when he started, right? And then Bobby said it's 2008, 2009, and he still didn't know what he was doing. See, that's true. Keep this in mind, newbies. It takes a long time to learn this game.
Does.
Be patient. It takes years. So just be patient, do your thing. Listen, look where Bobby's at now compared to where he was before. Even 3 years into the game, Bobby was timid and couldn't speed handicap, and look where he's at now. So just know, because it's only been a couple of years. Because I know some newbies, they kind of like, oh well, I'm going to give up. I'll never figure out this game. Just keep on going, and you'll get it one day. Like Bobby said earlier in the interview,
the light bulb will
come on, and you'll be like, you know what? I'm starting to get this now, but it takes time. But I wanted people to hear that because you said 3 years, and you still weren't getting it all that much.
Yeah, because I didn't. Well, like I said, 2006-ish, and I was still like casual with, like 2006, 2007. I was very casual with it. Like I wasn't like into it yet. Yeah. But
like a lot of your dates.
I was going to the track more, and and then I was like, I really like it, and I want to learn more. And then that's when he started giving me the books to read and stuff like that, because I was just going for the entertainment for the day. I wasn't really, I didn't think anything was going to become of it or whatever. I just wanted to go and just hang out with the guys and just
kind of like when you go to the club and pick up chicks.
Yeah, it's just.
You weren't looking for anything serious, casual.
No, but then, well, like I said, what hooked me was Saratoga. That's what really, if it wasn't for Barbaro, Rachel Alexandra, and Zenyatta, those 3 horses probably were, and I'll say, and I liked the Australian racing at that time. And that's when Black Caviar started to come around, like 2009, 2008.
Forgot about her.
I kind of fell in love with that horse too. And so like those horses were the ones that kind of like started bringing me into they started like, drawing me in, and when I went to, it had to be Had to be 2009 that we went to Saratoga for the first time. It was right after the market crash. I remember that, the real estate crash. That's how
That
we
was
got
08.
08. So it was either 08 or 09. Like I said, I can't fucking remember, but it was that was the only reason why we, because like I said, they used to go to Saratoga all the time, but they would just go in the flea bag hotels because they were never because when we go to Saratoga, it's like morning, we're at the track in the morning, we come home, take our showers, eat breakfast, we're back at the track at 11, then we're at the track all day. And do we come home? No. Where do they want to go? They want to go across the street to the casino and the harness track. So now we're there. We're watching Saratoga harness track and Santa Anita at night. So so it's like every day when we're there, it's like we're not getting home till like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So like you're out from 6 a.m. till like 11. It's long days. So it's like you got to pace yourself.
That's the life.
It is, and with these guys, because that's how that's what they're there for. They're like, oh, he's like, kid, we're here to friggin' gamble. He's like, what do you think we're here for? He's like, I'm like, well, are we gonna like go back to the house and make? He's like, no, fuck dinner. We're hungry. We'll eat when we come back. And I'm like, holy shit, So it was like, that's how it was, and I, like I said, it's got to be 2008, 2009. So anyway, but the first time I went to Saratoga, that's where like I really fell in love with it. And then I was like, and then after I hit that first friggin' race, we're standing in line, and I'll never forget. So I'm looking in the form, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, man, I really love this horse. And the name of the horse was called. You'll probably remember the name. The name of the horse was called Bull's Bay. Remember that horse? He was like an old hard knocker at that time.
Sounds familiar. I can't remember the
He ran
details.
against Rachel in when she won the Woodford that year, in 2009, the following year. So yeah, he was like a 5 or 6 year old at that time. But it was funny because I was like, I wasn't even talking to Stevie because he was in front of me online, and I'm looking and I'm like, damn, I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, shit, man, who the hell am I going to use? So I said, I'm going to do a dollar try key. I'm going to put Bull's Bay on top. And I saw like 3 other horses that I liked. I was like, I picked the speed horse. I picked another horse. I said, he's going to come closing, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right. And then I did it. And we both get our tickets, and when we walk away, when we're heading towards the track, and he's like, well, who did you play? I said, I went with Bull's Bay. He goes, I did too. He goes, what'd you do? I said, I did a try key. He goes, I did too. He goes, I did, him with the blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yo, shit, we got the same fucking ticket for $6. We got the same ticket. We hit the try. The dollar try paid $278. I'll never forget it. That was the first freaking, my first wager walking into Saratoga. I was like so fucking pumped and that was it. It was it. It was like my first race ever at Saratoga, my first wager that I placed at Saratoga, and that's it. I was gone. It was like, this is the best.
You're hooked from there.
We're hooked from there. I was hooked from there. And he's like, oh, kid, he goes, your wife is gonna kill me. But after that, then it was like after we came back from Saratoga that week, I was like, I fell in love with everything. It was like that was it. And then that's when I needed to learn more, and that's when I got obsessed with it, pretty much, and I became passionate, obsessed. And then, I was like, after that, I was like, I saw some beautiful horses out there, and I was like walking around, and I was like, oh man, this is great. And and that was it. It was just hook, line, and sinker, just like that, and I was like, damn, that's it. This is my new hobby.
For life.
For life. That's right. But yeah, and then after that, I was like, he gave me all, he whatever books he gave me, I read, and then I really started, and then what I did was, um, I got obsessed with like the Kentucky Derby, so I watched like. And I remember back in the day, it was like at that time, it was like they had HRTV and they had TVG. And on Mondays was like the dark days kind of, and TVG would play like 24 hours, like, from like the first Breeders' Cup ever. And they would play each race individually and throughout. And every Monday it would be like the continuation of every Breeders' Cup up until that year. So it's like I would come home from work and I would put on TVG and I would have dinner and everything like that, and I would watch all those races up until they stopped doing it, and then they went into their nighttime broadcasting or whatever. But then after that, I started watching like YouTube videos. Like I watched like every Kentucky Derby, every Preakness, every Belmont, every Breeders' Cup race, and this and that, and I was like, oh my God, I missed out on so much all these years. I'm like, what the heck? And I was like, look at all this stuff I'm missing, and then, and then the passion and the obsession, came, started coming from there. And then at that time, I remember probably around 2010, 2011, that's when they came out with all those TV shows. And that's when Jockeys came out. Remember that show,
Yeah.
Jockeys? Um, then that HBO series came out, Luck. I don't know
Luck.
if you remember that. I was so pissed when they didn't make the fucking second season. I was like so pissed.
Yeah.
And then Horse Players came out, and that was my first introduction into the NHC. I didn't know what the NHC was. I didn't even know, what that is. But I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I want to do this. And I said to Stevie, I was like, you watching this show? He's like, yeah, me too. And I was like, we should do this. And he's like, and at that point, I was like, now I'm starting to get it. And I thought I was like hot shit or whatever. And I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. But I wasn't ready at that time. But we never pursued it yet. But and I was like, damn, I want to meet some of these dudes. I want to, um, I can't think of their last name, but it was the Italian guys from New York. Like those guys, they were freaking great. I was like, I totally identify with those. I would hang out with those dudes at the track any day, you know. And actually the guy that I really liked, that I really identified with, because he was going through the same thing that I was going through, was that Matt Brenier guy. Matt, he's on TVG now,
Yeah.
and so he was one of the guys that I kind of like. I was rooting for big time in that show, and I was feeling everything that he was going through, because he was just learning. He was a newbie. I was just learning. I was a newbie. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. He didn't know what the hell I was like. Damn, I like this kid. Like he's just like me. So him and the Italian guys, I was rooting for them the whole show. And that was the year that Mike Baychuk won, and I'll never forget that. I thought it was so cool of him when he won that race, that last race that won him the tournament. And then he went back and he bought, and I don't know if people know this or remember this, but it was a horse. I think it was at Golden Gate, and it was like one of those like 8,000, 10,000 claiming races or something like that. But the horse that won for him, that won him the tournament, the $1 million, he went back and he bought that horse outright and he retired the horse. I thought that was such. I thought, I was like, wow, man, that's fucking awesome, man.
That's a classy move.
I was like, that's something I would fucking do, you know. Because that's my problem. I get so emotionally attached. That's why when Kentucky Derby rolls around, it's so painful for me. Because, like, when I first started learning and we started going to Saratoga, like I had a goal for myself. Like I was like, I'm gonna, what I'm gonna try to do is I'm going to try to pick either by the end of Saratoga, and I said no later than the Breeders' Cup. If I have to give myself to the Breeders' Cup, but before, if I can, before Saratoga is over, Saratoga and Del Mar, I said I'm going to have my either my horse or a couple of my horses that I'm going to have for the Kentucky Derby the following year, and I'm going to ride with those horses and follow their journey, and that's how I started. And I remember, and then I learned about. It was so funny. I learned about future wages. And I was like, future wage? I said to Stevie, what's a future Kentucky Derby wage? I said, I keep hearing this on TVG all the time. And he's like, oh, well, that's what you could bet on the Kentucky Derby. You know, they have like 4 pools that open up throughout the season, you know, and the first pool opens the weekend of Thanksgiving. And he's like, you know, whatever he was explaining to me, you know, whatever, you know, like if you like a horse and he closes at like 10, 20, 30 to 1, that's the odds you get for the Kentucky Derby, no matter what he is. So if he goes off the favorite or something like that, you're still getting your 20 to 1 or whatever, as long as he makes it to the Derby. But if he doesn't make it to the Derby, then, you know, you lose your money. I'm like, really? I'm like, that's a wager? He's like, yeah. I'm like, fuck, I thought that was cool. I was like, okay. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try that. He's like, what? He goes, you're going to try that? And Johnny's like, are you fucking soft? He goes, you're going to wager on a horse 6 months ahead of time and hope he gets there? He goes, you're just wasting your money. You're never going to do that. So I'm like, all right, I'm never going to do that, huh? Okay. So now, you know, once you tell me I can't do something, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. So what do? I find this horse that I absolutely love this fucking breeding. And I was like, man, this horse is big. He's beautiful. And girls, stop it. And I'm looking at this horse and I was like, you know, it was, I didn't know who I liked yet. And then I saw him Breeders' Cup weekend. And I'm looking at the horse and I'm like, damn, man, I don't know, but I just loved it. You know, when I was looking, you know, he was by Curlin, and I was like, I was like, man, this horse has beautiful breeding. And I was like, he's huge, like Zenyatta, and he's a 2-year-old. I'm like, he's freaking big. And I'm like, wow. I said, he's got big strides like Zenyatta, and like he didn't run a lick in the Breeders' Cup, but I was like, I just thought he was a beautiful horse. And I was like, damn, I was like, if this horse is given some time, he can grow into himself. And I was like, you know what? That's going to be my Kentucky Derby choice. And I'm going to put $20 to win on that horse for the Kentucky Derby futures. So I told Steve, I said, Steve, pick me up, you know, when you go to Rockingham. I'm going to place, I have a future wager for the Derby that I'm going to do. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, who are you going to play? I said, well, I'm going to play this horse. His name is Escandaria. And I said, I absolutely love this horse. He's freaking big. He's beautiful. He's got these long strides. I said, he didn't run a lick in the Breeders' Cup, but man, he's freaking gorgeous. So I'm like, all right. So I put my money on him. And then I show Johnny my ticket. He's like, are you crazy? I'm like, all right. He's like, what are the odds? I said, I'm getting 60 to 1. He goes, 60 to 1? He goes, you picked a horse at 60 to 1 now? He goes, what are you, crazy? That horse ain't going to make it. I'm like, trust me, this horse, he's going to become something. I have this huge feeling. So going into after the Wood Memorial, everybody knows what happens with Escandaria after he throws 3 huge races in friggin' New York, and then he becomes the Kentucky Derby favorite at 3 to 5. 3 to 5. I'm holding a ticket for 60 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And the freaking horse is 3 to 5. When they scratched him the day before the Derby, I was like, and here I was so funny because it was like the week before the Derby, I'm walking around the house and I'm like, I got I'm getting 60-1. Yeah, you said I wasn't gonna do it. And he's laughing at me. He's like, kid, he goes, I don't know how you fucking did that, but he's like, kudos to you. He's like, Jesus Christ. He's like, I never would have friggin' picked that friggin' horse. He goes, I don't even know if I would pick the horse now. But and when he, oh my God, I was devastated. I was devastated when he got hurt right before the Derby. And I'm like, oh my God. I was so pissed. And after that, that was it. I said, you know what? I'm gonna this is what I'm gonna and that's how I got also even more hooked because now I was on a mission. And my mission was I am going to pick the Kentucky Derby winner every year before the Breeders' Cup. You know, and I made it like a little game for myself, and then, I would pick, a couple horses, two or three horses, and I would follow their journey. And that was the problem. I got, uh, and